Chapter 780. Who allowed you to suffer on your own? Tongning couldn't help but feel sorry for the two of them. Don't tell me that in your hearts, we are people that are willing to watch our family get hurt for the sake of our pride. Chun Xingyin glanced at Mo Ting, who was sitting there like a king. She didn't want to drag Mo Ting down from his pedestal because of her. She didn't want Mo Ting and Tongning to be criticized because of that jerk. Tongning understood what Chun Xingyin was thinking, so she subconsciously glanced at Mo Ting. Mo Ting received a look from his wife and said calmly, "Even if you sincerely apologize, you still need to be accepted. From now on, before you do something stupid like this, you need to go through me first. Otherwise, all the lawyers I've hired will be useless." Chun Xingyin did not say a word. "If you really don't want to drag me and Ning Jie down, the right thing to do is to call Lu Chei's phone or tell your manager. You are still young, but they are experienced." If someone else was teaching her a lesson, Chun Xingyin may have expressed her own thoughts or argued with Zhehao. But after hearing Mo Ting's lesson, she felt a sense of fear. The fear was naturally born from within her. From the very beginning, she had always respected Mo Ting. I understand. Did you really think that we would be dragged into this mess because of some gossip? Don't you think we're too weak to withstand a single blow? Seeing Mo Ting express his stance, Tongning said to Chun Xingyin in a serious tone, "You sure tortured Zhehao. When I went to look for him, he was still drunk at home. From now on, when you do things, be more relaxed. You need to look up to yourself, because you are Mo Ting's sister." From the moment Chun Xingyin found out about her identity, she had been avoiding the fact that she was Mo Ting's sister. She didn't want others to think that she was useless apart from being Mo Ting's sister. But hearing Tongning mention that she was Mo Ting's sister, she suddenly felt that perhaps she had always been too concerned about other people's thoughts and actions. After all, this was an unchangeable fact. Tongning could ignore other people's opinions because she knew it wasn't true. So, why couldn't she do the same when it came to herself? Also, if you want anything, go ahead and ask him. See if he'll give it to you. Chun Xingyin looked at Mo Ting again without saying a word. "Nothing at all. It's because you interrupted my vacation with Ning, which made me very unhappy." For Mo Ting to say this, he obviously saw her as part of his family. So, even though he was blaming her, his words were heartwarming. At this time, the silent Zhehao couldn't help but speak up. "Originally, I planned to let the lawyer handle the matter quietly and try his best to comfort every family member. But after seeing the way Xingyin and Annie have been humiliated, I no longer have the intention to do that. Leave everything to Hai Rui. From now on, you just need to take care of her. If something like this happens again, return her to the Mo family and Hai Rui." At this moment, if I were to call Mo Ting the dignified head of the household, no one would object. Of course, if it wasn't for Tongning, he wouldn't have bothered. "Of course," and Zhehao said confidently. "The place you're living in is no longer safe. Move somewhere else and leave everything else for Ting to handle. Xingyin, get back on track and stop overthinking," Tongning instructed. Afterwards, she said to Bai Lihua, "Mom, I still need you to take care of Tang Tang and Guogua at the Tang family home." In reality, Tongning wanted Xia Yuling to chat with Bai Lihua because the two of them had something in common. If it was someone else, they would never be able to understand the pain in her heart. "Okay, in that case, Xingyin, don't worry, someone will take care of her." Since Mo Ting had already agreed to handle the matter, there was no need for her to worry anymore. As for Chun Xingyin, after this incident, she believed that her daughter was now capable of thinking independently. So, it was time for her to let her grow on her own. Afterwards, Zhehao dragged Chun Xingyin away. On this cold winter day, the couple did not return to their previous apartment. Instead, they headed straight to the resort where they used to secretly go on dates. As soon as they entered the room, Zhehao grabbed onto Chun Xingyin's wrist and forcefully pressed her against the wall. "Break up? Huh? Can you bear to?" And Zhehao glared into Chun Xingyin's eyes. "You've always been the one sticking to me. For my sake, you're even willing to give up your acting career. Can you really bear to?" "I can't, but you've already done enough for me. I don't want you to feel guilty." After hearing this, Zhehao suddenly laughed. So, Should I laugh at your naivety? Just because you're kind doesn't mean that everyone in the world is as kind as you. Why should I feel guilty? The jerk cheated me out of my money. I have no control over what he does with it. So, why should I feel guilty? You're the only one that's stupid. I won't run away from my responsibilities. But, how could you take responsibility for something like this? But he's my father. That's not your fault. What era are we in? Do you still believe that a son should repay his father's debts? And Zaheo grabbed onto Chun Xinyan's chin, making it impossible for her to escape his gaze. You should be grateful that you have so many people around you that can shelter you from the wind and rain. Since you're blessed with this, you should enjoy it. Now tell me, do you still want to break up? Can I still go back on my word? I can pretend I didn't hear you, and Zaheo replied. Chun Xingyan suddenly remembered what Tongning said. She mentioned that Zaheo was drunk at home all by himself, so her heart ached again. From now on, no matter what I say, treat it as nonsense. Don't take it to heart and don't drink. I feel like you're a variable. This won't do. To prevent you from saying the word break up again, I've decided to change my mind. After speaking, and Zaheo lifted Chun Xingyan in his arms, placed her on the bed, and pressed his body against hers. You're so heavy. Endure it. Isn't this what you want? And Zaheo's voice became heavier. You're allowed to hurt me, but I'm not allowed to hurt you? What kind of logic is that? Chun Xingyan's face suddenly turned bright red. She could feel in Zaheo's hands slowly removing her clothes. Didn't you say that I'm still young? No matter how young you are still mine. And Zaheo lifted Chun Xingyan's hands up high so that she couldn't resist. He then pushed her clothes over her chest and placed a kiss on her lips. Chapter 781. Zaheo. I'm scared. Chun Xingyan had never been treated like this before, so she had no idea how to react. Her mind wanted to resist, but her body was honest. Relax, leave it to me, okay? Perhaps it was because she already desired in Zaheo, or perhaps it was because in Zaheo's voice was so seductive, but Chun Xingyan suddenly relaxed. Soon, the couple were engulfed in passion. Inside the room, the flirtatious atmosphere continued to grow. However, Zaheo no longer stopped after a few gentle taps. Instead, his actions became more and more intense as he continued to move deeper. In fact, he even went over the limit. I hope you won't regret it. She was already at this point, so how could she retreat? Their souls had long since fused together. Their bodies were just shells. Even though the first experience was so painful that it felt like her heart was being torn apart, Chun Xingyan still felt a strong sense of belonging. She already belonged to this man, her first man and the man she loved the most. After the deed was over, Chun Xingyan was in so much pain that she did not dare to move. She simply lay on Zaheo's chest and quietly enjoyed the intimacy. I never thought doing something like this would hurt so much. Sorry, I'll be gentler next time, and Zaheo comforted as he gently stroked Chun Xingyan's back. Go to sleep. I'll take you to the bath in a bit. Okay. Chun Xingyan was truly tired. After closing her eyes for a moment, she fell asleep. At this time, Zaheo finally lifted Chun Xingyan in his arms and placed her in the bathtub. He then began to gently brush her hair. However, halfway through the bath, Zaheo couldn't help but lose control again. This time, Chun Xingyan's experience was a lot better. After the bath, she felt more energetic. By the time she returned to bed, Chun Xingyan was completely exhausted. However, Zaheo suddenly reached out his arms and hugged her. She was so scared that she quickly dodged. Do you want more? Go to sleep, be good. Zaheo simply pulled up the blanket. After kissing Chun Xingyan, he also fell asleep. It had been so many years since he had slept so soundly, and Zaheo had probably forgotten about it. All he knew was it was all because of Chun Xingyan. It turned out he loved this little woman so deeply. That night, Chun Xingyan was extremely happy, not only because of Mo Ting's acknowledgement, but also because she had finally become Zaheo's woman, a real woman. However, the impact of the car accident was still there. The next morning, Chun Xingyan went to the studio to film the commercial according to their contract. However, the advertising agency had already replaced the model, We would rather pay for the breach of contract than use an actress that has a murderer as her father. Who would buy our product like this? You haven't settled your father's matter, have you? It doesn't make sense for you to rush out to shoot a commercial. Go home. We don't dare to use you. Although Chun Xingyin had expected to encounter a problem like this, she never expected it to be this serious. When she returned home, she didn't dare to tell Zihao. This wasn't just a matter of her pride. Although Chun Xingyin was Mo Ting's sister, Mo Ting had never acknowledged it in the past, let alone after such a huge scandal. Any normal person would try to avoid arousing suspicion, right? Chun Xingyin returned to her normal lifestyle and no longer asked about Chun Tianhao's matter. As for Chun Xingyin's family, when Chun Xingyin came to apologize and discuss compensation, they didn't want it. But now that Chun Xingyin no longer cared, they went around looking for someone and even published a story in the newspapers. It wasn't clear where they found Chun Xingyin's phone number, but they directly called her. Shin, my husband is still lying in the hospital. Aren't you going to do anything about it? Didn't you say that you would pay for his medical bills? Chun Xingyin looked at her phone helplessly. At this time, Zihao picked up the phone and said, when she first brought it here, you guys told me you didn't need it. Of course we need it. My husband needs surgery, and we need a lot of money. I think you should look for Chun Tianhao. Chun Xingyin and Chun Tianhao no longer have anything to do with each other. Over 10 years ago, the police announced that Chun Tianhao and Bai Lihua had divorced. I'm sorry, but Chun Xingyin and Bai Lihua are not responsible for this matter. The woman seemed to be angered by Zihao's words as she began to curse. But Zihao was a seasoned veteran, so he was used to dealing with situations like this. He immediately grabbed his phone and walked into the study room, scolding the woman until she apologized profusely. From now on, if someone calls you again, tell them to look for the police. I understand, Chun Xingyin replied. Seeing Chun Xingyin's depressed expression, Zihao could tell that she wasn't in a good situation today. So he pulled her into his embrace. This is only temporary. Okay, Chun Xingyin nodded her head. No matter what the public said about her, she had to believe that Mo Ting and Tongning would solve the problem perfectly. The victim's family tried to contact Chun Xingyin, but she didn't get a response. So, they had no choice but to call the police station. However, the police had already investigated Chun Xingyin's family and found out that Chun Xingyin had indeed lost her father when she was 6 years old, and that Chun Tianhao had only recently appeared. Not only did he ask Chun Xingyin for money, he even used his sick son to swindle money. The police were also aware that Chun Xingyin had personally visited the victim's family to beg for forgiveness, but it seemed she had been hurt quite a bit. Although Chun Tianhao is Chun Xingyin's biological father, he has indeed not fulfilled his responsibilities as a father. So, it's impossible for us to ask Chun Xingyin to pay for what he did, especially since he even visited us to apologize. What about my husband's medical fees? You can find a lawyer and ask Chun Tianhao to pay for what he did. When Chun Xingyin visited, you refused and even hit him. Although I understand how you feel, Chun Xingyin is also innocent. At first, when the police heard that Chun Xingyin was a celebrity and that Chun Tianhao was driving drunk on drugs, they naturally thought that the father and daughter weren't pure. But after the truth was revealed, Chun Xingyin didn't do anything wrong. So, why should she take responsibility for her father's mistakes? The victim's family was helpless. Begging the police was useless. They assumed that the police had been bribed by Chun Xingyin and Chun Tianhao. So, they contacted the media and tried to use public opinion to ask for money. Chun Xingyin's previous visits were all an act. Afterwards, we couldn't get in touch with her. Her father committed such a heinous crime. Did she think that by hiding, she would be fine? Chun Xingyin needs to come out and explain herself. If Chun Xingyin doesn't come out and explain herself and show everyone her attitude, we will make sure she doesn't even have a moment of peace. Chapter 782. But, over the past few days, Chun Xingyin has returned to work. According to my friend, she was preparing to film a commercial, but she was replaced. Now that the matter has gotten so big, Chun Xingyin sure has a big heart. If something like this happened to me, I would definitely not show my face in public. How scary would that be? I don't think this matter will be resolved easily. Let's just wait and see. When Chun Xingyin can no longer handle the pressure, she will definitely step out and apologize. This was a conversation that Chun Xingyin overheard in the bathroom of the audition venue. It was a discussion between people in the industry. At the time, Chun Xingyin was sitting in a cubicle, but she did not retreat. She pretended not to see the people in the room as she walked past them and calmly washed her hands and tidied up her makeup. The woman felt embarrassed that she had been caught. Seeing how calm Chun Xingyin was, she realized that she wasn't someone to be trifled with. So, she quickly avoided Chun Xingyin and left the bathroom. This film was recommended by Tongning, so Chun Xingyin came to audition. Although a lot of people were pointing at her, Chun Xingyin's mentality was no longer the same as before. If they wanted to talk, then talk. It wasn't a big deal. After all, she wasn't going to lose a single piece of flesh. Look, it's Chun Xingyin. How dare she come to audition? One of you, hurry up and give the victim's family a phone call. Tell them that Chun Xingyin is doing a good deed by coming here for an audition. That's right. Let's teach them a lesson. Someone had secretly called the media, and the media had quickly notified the victim's family. In reality, Chun Xingyin was already prepared for this. But when the victim's family arrived at the audition, she still felt extremely upset. Her emotions were complex. It was a mixture of guilt and dissatisfaction. It was hard to describe. My husband is currently lying in the hospital, and his condition is unknown. How dare you come here for an audition? You even want to act in a film? Do you think a jerk like you is worthy? Plenty of people were watching the show without any intention of stopping the woman from dragging Chun Xingyin away. After all, they were the ones causing trouble. So, the show was bound to be spectacular. But while everyone expected Chun Xingyin to be extremely embarrassed, the truth was she remained calm. Madam, your husband's life or death is unknown. You should look for a doctor or the perpetrator. What's the point of looking for me? Don't even think about it. Chun Tianhao is your father. Now that your father is in trouble, you're trying to push the blame away. I'm sorry, my father disappeared when I was 6 years old. I can't bear any responsibility for a father who has never done his duty to me. If it were you, would you be willing? Even so, you can't change the fact that you are related by blood. The man seemed to be holding on to Chun Xingyin and demanding an explanation. In reality, he simply wanted money. There are a lot of people related to my father by blood. I'm not the only one. You only rely on me because I'm a celebrity. Do you think I earn more? Chun Xingyin asked coldly. I've already visited you with the intention of solving the problem. But how did you treat me? Slap me and tell me to scram? I'm sorry, I have something to attend to. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first. After speaking, Chun Xingyin turned to leave, but the man held her back. Don't even think about leaving. You need to explain everything to me today. Should Chun Xingyin take responsibility? This was probably the biggest topic of discussion. How many people were waiting to see Chun Xingyin make a fool of herself, including the vampire-like reporters? Chun Xingyin was completely surrounded. Even though Little Seven tried his best, he couldn't pull Chun Xingyin out of the crowd. However, at this time, Zhehao and Lu Che arrived at the audition with a bodyguard and a lawyer. The first thing they did was complain about the building's security. What a bunch of trash. They want Hai Rui's help to fix things up, yet they let just anyone in. Everyone looked at Lu Che and Zhehao, including the reporters. They quickly moved aside to allow Zhehao to smoothly walk over to Chun Xingyin. However, Lu Che and Zhehao were not in a rush to get even with someone. Instead, they brought the lawyer over to the victim's family and said, "From now on, if there's anything related to Chun Xingyin, I suggest you look for a professional lawyer." Originally, Hai Rui was going to give you a humanitarian compensation out of sympathy. But since you've been causing a scene like this, I'm sorry, but Hai Rui will have to withdraw this plan. So, what awaits you is bad news. You won't get a single cent. Hai Rui's here. Oh God, Hai Rui's people are here. We can't hide anymore. Let's get out of here and stop watching the show. Some people took advantage of the chaos to leave the scene. But Lu Che did not give them a chance to escape. As for who leaked the news that the second miss was at the audition, Hai Rui will investigate as soon as possible. Our second miss has never treated herself as a part of Hai Rui. But don't forget, President Mo hates it when people bully his family. As for Chun Tianhao's accident, Hai Rui will provide a public explanation. As for our second Mrs. current situation, you don't need to worry about it. If anyone else wants to cause trouble for the second miss, I'm sorry, President Mo will send her a lawyer's letter. Hai Rui's lawyers have never lost a lawsuit before. We welcome anyone to break our record. After speaking, Lu Che and Nzaheo prepared to escort Qinxingyan away. But the victim's family member questioned Lu Che, "You're protecting a criminal." Madam, you need to understand that the criminal is currently on trial. For the sake of fairness, Hai Rui has warned our lawyers not to defend someone like Chun Tianhao because we also believe that he deserves to die. Madam, don't you think that's enough? Let me put it this way. Our second miss has never had a father since she was young. I hope everyone can ask yourselves this. If you were in her shoes and were in the same situation, would you take responsibility for a father like her? If you can't do it, then don't use another set of standards to judge others. That will make you look like a hypocrite. So, madam, how do you think we are protecting a criminal? The victim had nothing to say, but she couldn't accept it. He could only stare at them as they left, but there was nothing he could do. As for Qinxingyan, this was the first time that she had been publicly acknowledged as the second miss of the Mo family and Mo Ting's sister. Mo Ting's way of doing things had always been strong and ruthless. So, Qinxingyan felt that there was a reason why so many people respected Mo Ting. Second miss, from now on, this is how we will address you. As for you, you should stop belittling yourself. If you come across someone like that, you should fight back. If she can stand by her side until the end, then I'll admit defeat, because there's no logic to it. Chapter 783. With Hai Rui's strong protection, Qinxingyan slowly became more confident. After all, Chun Tianhao had done something unforgivable and it wasn't her fault, so she didn't need to feel guilty. After Hai Rui stepped out to protect Qinxingyan, the gossip within the industry decreased by a lot. Even if someone wanted to gossip, they no longer dared to do so in front of the person in question. To suit her new identity, Qinxingyan made some changes and became more assertive. She was well aware that in the industry, having a strong background would make life easier for the people around her. Afterwards, Hai Rui announced the entire story. Qinxingyan lost her father when she was 6 years old. As soon as her father returned, he immediately asked for money. No, he was trying to scam her. Chun Tianhao did indeed have a son, and he was seriously ill. So, when Nzaheo and Hai Rui revealed this series of evidence, Qinxingyan's situation was pitiful. The people in the industry couldn't help but think of themselves. If Hai Rui hadn't protected Qinxingyan, she would have been screwed over by Chun Tianhao's scumbag father. Being an artist wasn't as glamorous as the public thought. There were many times when an artist's family became their biggest enemy. So, someone in the industry couldn't help but step out and say something. Actually, no matter how you look at it, you can't blame Qinxingyan. Having a murderer for a father isn't glamorous. But having a big brother like Qinxingyan's life has been enriched. With Hai Rui's protection, Qinxingyan will naturally be able to escape unscathed. Everyone, you can leave now. In reality, Hai Rui had indeed compensated the victim's family. But it didn't include the family that made Qinxingyan kneel and demanded money from them. Hai Rui wanted the public to know that they shouldn't play any tricks in front of the emperor of the entertainment industry. Mo Ting's lawyer wasn't hired for nothing. Most importantly, Mo Ting's attitude was clear. A reporter stopped him and asked for his opinion on the matter. He simply replied, "I think my opinion is already reflected in Hai Rui's actions. Although Qinxingyan's surname is Chun, she is still a Mo family member. I hope you all remember this and never forget it." Mo Ting's words spoke louder than 1,000 words. Even if there were people that weren't happy, they had to endure it. With a brother like this, Qinxingyan's path would be a lot smoother from now on. There are a lot of award ceremonies this year, and many organizers have sent invitations. Are there any that you would like to attend? Not long after, the couple moved to a new home and moved into a villa near Hyatt Regency. Although it wasn't as luxurious as the place that symbolized the rich and powerful, The environment was protected by Hyatt, so it was much safer and more secluded than most villas. I want to see Qin Tianhao, Qin Xingyin suddenly said to Nzaheo. So, Qin Xingyin never expected that she would receive a small award. Although it wasn't a very prestigious award, which artist didn't start off with something small? Of course, Tongning was an exception. Seeing Qin Xingyin so happy, and Nzaheo was also happy, even though he had never cared about an important award like this. In the future, I will be able to receive even more and better awards. Speaking of which, the Fei Tian Awards has already started voting for the audience's favorite drama. If you have some time, you can ask your fans to vote for The Forensic Concubine. Ning Jie doesn't need my fans. Qin Xingyin had already paid attention to the awards. Although the Best Actress award was still unknown, Tongning was definitely not going to lose out on the most popular award. However, Tongning didn't really care about the most popular award. As Survivor was about to start filming, Tongning's mind was completely focused on the new film. During this time, Guo became sick more and more frequently. Chapter 784. Bai Liwa gave Guo a checkup. Because of his immune system, Guo's body was a lot worse than Tang Tang's. This difference would slowly become apparent as he grew up. As a result, although Guo and Tang Tang were twins, they were destined to walk different paths. Tongning officially joined the cast of Survivor before the Fei Tian Awards. Previously, Guo's illness wasn't serious. It was just a common fever that children often had. But one afternoon, Bai Lihua felt that something wasn't right. So, she immediately gave Mo Ting, who was still working at Hai Rue, a phone call. Immediately send Guo to the hospital. Something doesn't seem right. Mo Ting put down his work and headed straight home. He then instructed Lu Che to arrange for a specialist. As soon as he arrived at the hospital, Guo was immediately given a full-body checkup. In the end, the diagnosis was that Guo's lungs were congenital dysplasia and needed long-term care and careful protection. Otherwise, the problem with the lungs could be serious or minor. It could even lead to a premature death. Mr. Mo, why don't you contact our expert in pediatrics, Dr. Tan? She is beautiful and specializes in treating children. However, she is currently overseas and will only be back in a few days. Mo Ting's handsome face darkened as he looked at Guo, who had finally fallen asleep. Bai Lihua replied. She then asked Mo Ting, should we tell Xiaoning? After Survivor finishes filming, I will personally tell her, Mo Ting replied. He knew that if he told her at this time, she would immediately leave the set and return home to take care of Guo. That's good, Bai Lihua nodded. Let's wait for Guo to stabilize a little before we see what happens. This time, Guo's fever lasted for 2 whole days. On the day that he was discharged, the expert Dr. Tan happened to return to China. As soon as she heard that Guo's condition was the same, she rushed straight to the hospital without even packing her luggage. She was indeed young. She was only 28 years old, but she often appeared in medical magazines and received many awards. She loved children, so she studied pediatrics in the U.S. After returning to China, she began researching difficult diseases in children. Guo's condition isn't that serious, but he needs to be brought to the hospital regularly for checkups. We understand, Dr. Tan, Bai Lihua replied. What about his mother? Tan Suling asked as she turned to ask Bai Lihua. Xiao Ning doesn't know about this yet. Although Tan Suling didn't follow the entertainment news, she had heard about Tongning's gossip. So, she nodded her head. I know your family are all public figures. Even so, I suggest Mom bring you along next time. Okay, Bai Lihua nodded. Afterwards, Mo Ting left the hospital with Guo. Of course, not many people knew about this. I have to say, hybrids are really beautiful. Although Bai Lihua knew that it was not the right time to bring this up, she couldn't help but sigh at the thought of Tan Suling's beauty. She's a doctor too. Not bad. If I had another son, I would definitely tell him to woo her. Mo Ting did not say a word. He simply carried the sleeping Guo in his arms. As the head of the household, it was hard to tell what he was thinking. Bai Lihua could roughly guess what Mo Ting was thinking, so she replied, I know what you are thinking. You are afraid that Xiao Ning will worry and that she will abandon her life because of Guogua. I'm not worried, but she'll definitely do it. But you shouldn't hide it from Xiao Ning for too long. She is Guogua's mother. As a mother, how can she be kept in the dark? Plus, Xiao Ning is such a meticulous person. As soon as she returns home, she will definitely notice that Guogua is different. I will naturally tell her after filming, Mo Ting insisted. She's already given up enough for me. But, as a mother, she had a telepathic connection with her child. So, that night, Taning gave him a phone call and asked about the babies. In particular, she asked if Guogua had a fever again. Mo Ting replied honestly that Guogua was indeed a little sick, but he had already recovered. After hearing this, Taning remained silent for quite some time. The next morning, she applied for leave from filming and returned home. Only after seeing the two babies were lively and energetic did she relax. Mo Ting quietly hugged Taning from behind and placed his chin on her shoulder. Why did you suddenly come home? I dreamed that the babies had a fever. I have to see them to be at ease, Taning said gently. Plus, the filming hasn't been very intense these few days. If we move to the mountains, I'm afraid it won't be easy for me to see the two of you again. Silly. Mo Ting was well aware of how much Taning loved the two babies. Ting, record a few more videos of the babies every day and send them to me. I don't want to miss them. I can take the two babies with me to supervise the filming. Are you crazy? The conditions on set are so tough. I don't want you and our son to suffer. Plus, the entire crew would be a laughingstock. Don't worry, I won't be filming for too long. Plus, as soon as I have time, I will immediately return. Mo Ting did not say a word. He simply hugged Taning tighter. Only God knew how much he wanted to see her. As a father, he was naturally afraid, but Taning seemed to have sensed it. So, she actually returned home and stood in front of him at the exact moment he wanted to see her the most. Do your best. The Fei Tian Awards is about to start. Hairue will take care of everything. Don't worry. Last year, it wasn't easy for her to win the Best Newcomer award. But this year, Taning was aiming for the Best Actress award. With so many good films and outstanding performances, Mo Ting was certain that Taning would definitely win the Best Actress award. Daddy Ting, you seem a little strange today. Mo Ting did not say a word. He simply placed a kiss on her lips. Although Taning appeared to believe Mo Ting's words, she still approached Lu Che after returning to the set. Of course, Mo Ting hid the truth well. Even Lu Che had no idea about Guogua's condition. Soon, Taning moved to the mountains. At this time, the Fei Tian Awards released the nominees for their awards. Naturally, Taning was nominated for the Best Actress award. But at this time, Guogua suddenly fell sick again. Did Taning not come again? Tan Suling noticed that Mo Ting was the one taking the babies to the hospital again, so she subconsciously developed a prejudice against Taning. No matter how important your acting is, it can't be more important than your child. After hearing this, Mo Ting furrowed his brows. This time, he simply treated it as the doctor's concern for Guogua. But if she continued to say anything bad about Taning, he was not going to remain silent anymore. His fever is worse than before, and his immune system is weakening. From now on, don't bring him out. Also, remember not to let him get exposed to the wind. Tan Suling noticed Mo Ting's displeasure, so she did not say another word. After Mo Ting left, she turned to her assistant and said, "It's rare to see a man in the entertainment industry that cares so much about his family and child. Unfortunately, Taning isn't a good mother. She spends all her time trying to please the audience, yet she doesn't put any effort into her own child." Chapter 785. I know, right? Her own child is sick, yet she's filming outside. Wouldn't her child hate her in the future? As doctors, apart from their lives, nothing else mattered. Because, whether you were the world's president or a beggar, you couldn't escape death. You needed medicine, injections, and hospitalization. So, even if Taning had a good reason, they still felt that it was disrespectful for a mother to not be by her side when her child was seriously ill. Tan Suling did not say a word. She simply pulled out her phone and searched for Tongning's name. News of Tongning winning the Fei Tian Best Actress Award was all over the internet. Let's see, she's about to win another award. After seeing the news, Tan Suling put away her phone with a gentle smile and focused on her next patient. She had already heard about the relationship between Mo Ting and Tongning. The couple seemed to have a good relationship. But why was the father the only one that appeared when their child was sick? Plus, Mo Ting did not mention a single word about Tongning while the child was seriously ill. Could it be that they were putting on an act in front of the public? Tan Suling thought about it for a moment. She had seen too many families like this. Everyone was simply taking what they needed, so there was nothing to be surprised about. She simply felt bad for the child. However, a man like Mo Ting probably wanted to find a perfect woman to give birth to his child. He had no shortage of women. In reality, Mo Ting was afraid that Tongning would miss the children, so when Tongning moved to the mountains, he decided to visit her on set. That day, Tongning had just finished filming, and there wasn't a single spot on her body that was clean. As she watched from afar, Mo Ting carried the children and smiled at the father and son. As soon as the crew saw this, they immediately said, "Tongning, I've never seen you smile like this since you first joined. Only President Mo gets this kind of treatment." "Ning Jie, President Mo is carrying your children. Who else is there? Why are there two?" "Oh, they're probably both mine. Because I gave birth to twins," Tongning replied with a smile. A few of the small-time actors covered their mouths in curiosity before they raised their thumbs at her. "You're amazing. You've never announced this to the public. Help me keep this a secret." After speaking, Tongning didn't even have time to change her clothes as she walked towards the father and son. Meanwhile, the other members of the production crew had never seen the iron-blooded Mo Ting appear on set with a child in his arms. A scene like this was hard to imagine. It was clearly such a strange thing, but after seeing it with his own eyes, he felt that it was so harmonious and natural, making him feel unusually warm. "Why did he suddenly come? Go wash up and get changed. We'll wait for you in the room," Mo Ting said. "All right." Tongning nodded her head. The couple quickly disappeared from sight with the babies. But this scene made everyone on set extremely envious. One look, and you can tell that President Mo and Ning Jie are in love. Didn't you see the way President Mo looks at Ning Jie? His gaze is gentle and doting. It's simply too gentle. Who didn't see it? I'm so envious of Ning Jie. Plus, she has two adorable babies. She's definitely a winner in life. As Tongning had slowly solidified her position in the industry, after joining the cast of Survivor, she received a lot of care. Everyone subconsciously treated her with respect, like a big sister. Of course, this was also because Tongning was someone that deserved to be loved and respected. After entering the room, Tongning quickly washed herself up. Without even bothering to cover up the cuts on her body, she directly approached Mo Ting and the babies. Mo Ting had already noticed the blood on her waist. Seeing that she didn't take it seriously, he put down the babies and pulled her into his embrace. "Are you hurt?" "This film is quite dangerous," Tongning replied honestly. "I already tried my best to protect myself. What happened today was just an accident." Mo Ting did not say a word. He simply gestured for her to take out the first aid kit and helped her disinfect it. No matter how small the wound is, you still need to treat it properly. Otherwise, it will leave a scar. Tongning looked at the two rascals crawling around on the bed and couldn't help but hug them in her arms. As for her wound, she left it for Mo Ting to treat. "We will be moving into the dangerous jungle tomorrow. I may not be able to return home for 2 months. I've already applied for leave from the Fei Tian Awards for you." Mo Ting helped her treat her wound and put down her clothes. "You don't need to worry about the babies." "Okay." Tongning nodded, but her gaze did not leave the babies for even a second. "I'll come pick you up on the day that you finish filming. I also have something to tell you." Mo Ting had no intention of hiding this from Tongning for too long. "Okay." Tongning nodded her head. "Don't worry, I will take good care of myself." After the couple's brief reunion, Mo Ting returned to Beijing with the babies. Lu Che waited in the car. Otherwise, Mo Ting wouldn't have been able to take the babies so far on his own. That night, Tawning followed the crew to their new location. But along the way, her mind and heart were filled with images of the father and son trio. She couldn't even focus on the script. Ningjia, you're actually amazing. It's not easy for an actress to reach this level. Trust me, Survivor will definitely help you win the title of Best Actress. One of the actors on set comforted after seeing her silence. Noticing her silence, the other actors on the set tried to comfort her. Actors may enjoy the best resources, but they also have to sacrifice a lot. For example, privacy and time spent with family. Endure it for a bit. 2 months will be over very quickly. While Tawning was moving to another location, Longjie arrived with some good news. She had given birth to a baby girl in the hospital. As soon as the baby was born, it looked like it was going to be her mother. She was round and cute. Tawning was happy for Longjie. After all, she had always wanted a baby. Now that her wish had finally come true, she was definitely overjoyed. However, Lu Che's parents simply flew over to see the mother and daughter before leaving in a hurry. That night, Longjie noticed that Lu Che's eyes were red. Lu Che did not say a word, but Longjie felt something wasn't right. After all, she understood Lu Che. Do mom and dad not like their daughter? Longjie subconsciously thought of this possibility, so she asked cautiously. Don't overthink it. I'll be happy no matter what you give birth to. Lu Che replied as he held the Lu family's little heiress in his arms. Did I guess right? Longjie never expected. Although her mother-in-law had never pressured her in this area, her disgust was so obvious. You're being stubborn again. The person you want to spend the rest of your life with is me. Before you got pregnant, I already made it clear to you. Why must you try to please them? In reality, Longjie didn't know why either. Perhaps it was because of the inferiority complex that emanated from her bones. Chapter 786. Every year, the Fei Tian Awards was extremely competitive. But this year, no one doubted Tangning's acting or the box office. Whether it was the lost relative, the forensic concubine, or the currently filming Survivor, everyone had a common understanding. Tangning's productions were always the best. But the forensic concubine gave everyone an even bigger surprise. Mo Ting played the male lead, allowing everyone to see a different Mo Ting. Mo Ting that could do anything. On top of that, with Mo Ting's guidance, Qing Lan's character became more realistic and full of emotions. As a result, the forensic concubine broke all records for television dramas. So far, it was ranked #1 on all the charts. This was undoubtedly a good year for Tangning. Not only did her film do well in the box office, she had just become a mother, she was younger than before, and she even starred in a film with Mo Ting as a couple. Tangning is definitely going to win the Best Actress this year, right? I don't think there's any suspense. If she doesn't win, then it would be unfair. It was like all of a sudden, the people in the industry began to differentiate Tangning from the average actress. Everyone had a scale in their hearts. Tangning's hard work and acting skills were obvious to all. This was an indisputable fact. But just before the Fei Tian Awards was to be presented, Guo was once again admitted to the hospital with a high fever. This time, Tan Suling asked Mo Ting, "Why didn't you notify Tangning?" Although Guo only has a fever every time, it doesn't mean he doesn't want his mother by his side. "Doctor, you're being too nosy," Mo Ting replied. Tan Suling calmed down for a few seconds before she began to help Guo cool down. Even if it's a marriage of convenience, you shouldn't just give birth and not care for your child. Don't tell me you don't have any feelings for the child you carry for 10 months. My wife isn't abandoning the child. I simply didn't tell her. If Dr. Tan insists on mixing in personal feelings, then I can simply switch hospitals, Mo Ting replied coldly. You shouldn't be getting involved in other people's family matters. Tan Suling nodded her head. After she helped Guo's fever reduce, she said to Mo Ting, I simply feel bad for the child. It's not your turn. After saying these 3 words, Mo Ting carried Guo and left. Just as he was about to step out of the door, he said to Bai Lihua, Mom, prepare to switch hospitals. The thing that Mo Ting regretted the most was that he never thought about raising a medical team. Ever since he found out that Guoguo's body was weak, Mo Ting searched all over the world for an authoritative pediatrician to help alleviate Guoguo's pain. Although Tan Suling was emotional, she was indeed a professional when it came to pediatrics. But even so, he still did not want to see this doctor who was prejudiced against Tongning again. For Mo Ting, there were only two types of people in the entire world, Tongning and others. Xiaoting, it's about time you told Xiaoning. Seeing Guoguo in so much pain, Bai Lihua couldn't help but feel her heart ache. You should know that no matter how attentive a father is, there are some things that a mother can't do without. I know what to do, Mo Ting replied. The Fei Tian Awards were just around the corner, and Tongning was about to return home. But there was still a third of the time until the filming of Survivor ended. In reality, the public paid close attention to the Fei Tian Awards every year. After all, it was one of the most prestigious awards in Beijing, and the films and actors that were chosen were always won over by the public. As expected, Tongning was one of the most popular nominees for the Fei Tian Awards this time. So, discussions about her were quite intense. Even the doctors and nurses at the hospital would watch a couple of episodes of The Forensic Concubine during their lunch break to satisfy their cravings. Seeing this, Tan Suling's expression darkened. Don't let me find out that you guys are watching this boring drama at work again. The nurses were a little helpless. Tan Suling had never objected to it before. Why was she suddenly so angry? Tan Suling seemed to know what the nurses were thinking. So she explained, no matter how successful she is as an actress, she is still a failure in my eyes. Someone that doesn't even care about her own son has no right to give birth to a child. The nurses smiled awkwardly. They felt that Tan Suling was being a little too controlling. Guoguo has been seriously ill 3 times, but she hasn't visited even once. Have you guys ever seen a mother like this? Dr. Tan, that seems to be a family matter. Tan Suling glared at the nurse before she turned and left. In reality, even Tan Suling felt that she was overreacting. Why was she so angry at Tongning's irresponsibility? Perhaps it was because she felt that Tongning wasn't worthy of being loved by others. If she could be so terrible as a mother, it was obvious that she was just putting on a show in private. But Dr. Tan couldn't be telling the truth, right? Tongning and Mo Ting's child has been seriously ill 3 times, and Tongning hasn't visited even once? Could it be the legendary marriage of convenience between the two of them? The kind where they do things on their own? Stop making wild guesses. The two of them are so close. That's impossible. In that case, why do you think Dr. Tan is so angry? The 3 nurses began to discuss the matter at the nurses' station. They had no idea that Mo Ting had instructed them to keep this a secret. But, of course, the root of the problem was Tan Suling. Although she was a professional, she had a low EQ. She always thought she was great and righteous. Of course, it was just a discussion between the nurses, so the matter wasn't about to blow up. But just because it didn't happen today, it didn't mean it wouldn't happen tomorrow. It was already late at night. Mo Ting sat in the study room thinking for a long time. In the end, he picked up his phone and dialed a familiar number. Ning. At this time, Tongning was in the middle of filming a night scene. Even so, she did not miss Mo Ting's call. What happened? Why aren't you asleep yet? Guoguo is not well, Mo Ting replied straightforwardly. Recently, he's been having a high fever and his immune system has been declining. After hearing this, Tongning felt her mind go blank. Is it serious? Is he still having a fever? He's been sick a few times, but his condition is stable now. Don't worry. Mo Ting understood that Tongning was planning to return home immediately. Mo Ting could tell that Tongning was planning to go home immediately. So he quickly comforted her. I played with Tang Tang for a while. She has already gone to bed. Don't rush home. Stick to the original plan, and you will be home the day after tomorrow. Chapter 787. Tongning couldn't wait 2 days, so she directly asked for a day off. After hearing about Tongning's situation, the director agreed to her request. But, as he let her go, he said in a serious tone, Tongning, it's normal for children to get sick. Plus, President Mo will be there to take care of them. But you are the female lead of this film. Every day you miss is going to cost you a lot of money. So, I can agree to your request, but there will be no next time. Tongning understood the director's difficulties, so she nodded her head apologetically. I will take responsibility for any consequences. Okay, go ahead then. The Fei Tian Award ceremony is almost here, so I'll give you an early break. As long as Tongning was willing to take responsibility, the director was willing to do her a favor. After all, Tongning did have her reasons. Tongning rushed home that night. The first thing she did as soon as she entered the house was to make sure Guogua was fine. Seeing that he was sleeping soundly in his crib, she let out a sigh of relief. Mo Ting heard a noise and stepped out of the bedroom. Seeing Tongning standing in front of the crib with a cold aura, he quickly grabbed a clean towel and wrapped her up. I told you not to worry. What if you catch a cold after coming home like this? I told you not to worry. How could it be so easy? Tongning said as she held onto her cheeks. Only then did she feel her hands turn cold. Go take a hot shower. Mo Ting carried her into the bathroom and filled the tub with warm water. After watching her get into bed, he gave the director of Survivor a phone call. President Mo. Tongning already told me before she left. It's fine. After the Fei Tian Awards ceremony, she will return on time. As for any losses caused by her absence, I will take responsibility, Mo Ting said responsibly. As long as Hai Rui shows their sincerity, it won't be a problem for Tongning to leave for 2 days. Don't worry. The director knew how to weigh the pros and cons. After all, if Tongning wasn't around for 2 days, she might not even finish filming her supporting roles. Even so, he still had to act like he was in a difficult position. Otherwise, Tongning would assume that the crew had no rules. Not long after, Tongning stepped out of the bathroom. Seeing that Mo Ting wasn't in the bedroom, she assumed he was still in the study room. Tongning remained silent for a moment. She knew she couldn't add to Mo Ting's burden right now, so she lay down on the bed and tried to relax. It didn't take long before Mo Ting returned to the bedroom. Knowing that Tongning wasn't asleep, he immediately hugged her from behind and whispered, I've already arranged for Guogua to do a more thorough examination tomorrow. Don't worry, okay? The newly formed medical team is also on the plane. They will arrive in Beijing soon. How weak is Guogua's resistance? Tongning asked as she flipped over and wrapped her arms around Mo Ting's neck. Previously, the doctor said that I might fall sick often. Because my immune system is low, there are all kinds of possibilities. After hearing Mo Ting's words, Tongning fell silent. She didn't feel good, but she accepted reality. After quite some time, she finally calmed herself down and said to Mo Ting, hurry and get some rest. Guogua is already sick, you can't be too tired. Mo Ting knew Tongning had a strong heart. Even though she was worried, it wasn't enough to make her lose her composure. The next morning, Tongning and Mo Ting sent Guogua to the hospital. Although the annoying Tan Suling was at the hospital, it was still the best pediatrics hospital in Beijing. It didn't take long before Guogua underwent another thorough examination. Apart from his weak immune system, he was also diagnosed with pneumonia. Because of Mo Ting's request, Tan Suling wasn't the one to treat Guogua this time. Even so, the nurse still suggested to Mo Ting, Mr. Mo, Dr. Tan is indeed our authority. People from all over the country come to visit because of her reputation. So, I suggest you go see Dr. Tan. After hearing this, Tongning was a little confused as she looked at Mo Ting. Why don't you go see Dr. Tan? Mo Ting remained silent without a word. Seeing this, the nurse explained, Dr. Tan is a very individualistic person. She is warm-hearted and can't stand seeing parents mistreat their children. Plus, you haven't been by Guogua's side the past few times, so she has developed a prejudice against you. So, just because of that? Tongning didn't mind, as she immediately asked the nurse to call Dr. Tan. Ting, okay. Mo Ting knew what Tongning wanted to say. Mo Ting knew what Tongning wanted to say. If worst came to worst, he would just ignore Tan Suling when she arrived. Soon, Tan Suling arrived at the entrance of the emergency department. This time, she finally got to see Tongning. At first, she did not say a word, but when she saw Guogua's report, she finally said, "Your child is so sick, yet you haven't been by his side all this time. I'm afraid you can't absolve yourself from the blame. You should know that you are now a mother. Since you're going to have a child, you should be responsible for him. Is acting and becoming famous that important?" Tawning did not refute as she accepted Tan Suling's blame. She then asked patiently, "Dr. Tan, can you please treat Guogua? With a mother like you who doesn't care about him, I can't treat him." Tawning did not explain and did not say another word. Seeing that Mo Ting was about to explode in anger, Tawning quickly held him back and comforted him for a few seconds. "I think Dr. Tan should put aside her emotions at a time like this. After all, my son is waiting for treatment. Are you aware of your son's condition now?" After hearing Tan Suling's words, Tawning did not continue to beg her. Instead, she gave Xia Yuling a phone call. At this time, she was suddenly reminded of her medical student, Tang Yichen. "Mom, Guogua is sick. Can you help me contact Sister 2? I'll arrange for Guogua to be transferred to another hospital." Xia Yuling had no idea how sick Guogua was. As soon as she heard Tangning's words, she immediately gave Tang Yichen a phone call. "Are you crazy? Guogua is in such a critical condition right now, yet you're asking him to be transferred to another hospital?" Tan Suling immediately scolded. "You're indeed not good at being a mother." This time, no one could stop Mo Ting. He directly waved at the nurse. "Get the hospital chief here." The nurse was shocked, especially when she saw Mo Ting's dark expression. She had no choice but to turn around and rush over to the hospital chief's office. "Even if you get the hospital chief here, it won't change the fact that Tongning isn't a good mother. You're being too nosy," Mo Ting said straightforwardly. "If you like to make assumptions, you don't need to be a doctor. You should get your brain checked first. Mr. Mo, watch your words." Mo Ting did not say another word. He couldn't be bothered to respond. In all seriousness, the couple had never seen such a nosy doctor. Soon, Tang Yichen arrived at the hospital. Although Tongning rarely interacted with her, they were still sisters. So, Tang Yichen directly grabbed Guogua's report from Tan Suling's hands and looked at it. She then said calmly, "You can transfer Guogua to another hospital. Brother-in-law, it's your turn to make the arrangements." After hearing this, Mo Ting immediately turned and left. At this time, Tan Suling asked, "Who do you think you are?" Chapter 788. I've long heard of Dr. Tan's reputation. Now that I've seen you in person, you truly live up to your reputation. What an idiot, Tang Yichen said as she squinted her eyes at Tan Suling. "You may be professional, but your EQ is 0. Before you treat your child, I suggest you go home and find out how to improve your EQ." Tang Yichen had already seen Tan Suling's medical research and knew that she was a perfectionist. However, she was too idealistic and didn't understand the difficulties of others. Her mind was filled with assumptions. She felt that children were the most important and that parents needed to be by their side to take care of them. In addition, she often felt that children were the most precious thing in the world and that adults should unconditionally give way to hopeful children. "What right do you have to lecture me?" Tan Suling asked as she scanned Tang Yichen up and down. "Because I'm currently an associate professor in pediatrics and you're merely a specialist," Tang Yichen said as she pulled out her credentials. In reality, Tan Suling was indeed strong in her professional field. This was something that Tang Yichen had to admit. But Tan Suling's personality was a little off. As a result, even though she was famous, her status and abilities were lacking. As soon as Tan Suling saw her credentials, she reluctantly kept her mouth shut. Afterwards, the group left the hospital. Halfway through their journey, Tang Yichen said to Mo Ting and Mo Xian, "You guys don't pay much attention to the medical field. That's why you were so flustered when Guogua was sick. Why didn't you give me a call as soon as possible?" Although Tan Suling's hospital is indeed the best pediatrics hospital in Beijing, even if the child recovers after she sees him, the parents will definitely fall sick from anger. "I've already assembled the best medical team. Guogua doesn't need it for now. Let's send him to the military hospital first. My teacher can definitely treat him." Of course, the medical team is still necessary. You guys should pay more attention to your checkups. Tang Yichen's occupational disease was acting up. Even though the person in front of her was Mo Ting, she couldn't help but say a few words. In reality, in terms of how close they were, Tang Ning felt that she and Tang Yichen were the two oddities in the Tang family. In the past, when Tang Xian was still around, they didn't have a good relationship. They were considered neutral. Plus, the Tang family had too many secrets, so Tang Yichen spent most of her time in medical school. Up until now, Tang Ning had no idea that she had already achieved such an impressive feat in her own field. Are you surprised? Tang Yichen asked as she looked at Tang Ning's blank expression. Yes. I just watched the TV series you starred in, The Forensic Concubine. Tang Yichen expressed her concern for Tang Ning. Of course, it's when I'm bored. You never came to me when you were sick in the past. Let's keep in touch in the future. I don't know. Tang Ning replied helplessly. Soon, the group arrived at the military hospital. Tang Yichen was currently the hospital's military doctor, so she directly led Guo Guo into the surgery room. At this time, a man's voice could be heard. Do you need me for a child's illness like this? Tang Yichen, did I teach you for nothing? So, what if he's your nephew? Do as you see fit. Soon, a tall man walked out of the surgery room. As soon as Tang Ning saw him, she was stunned. It seemed it was rare to see such a handsome man in the hospital. It would be a shame if he didn't become a celebrity. He was obviously the teacher that Tang Yichen was talking about. Originally, Tang Ning thought that he would be middle-aged, but he was only in his early 30s. He was dressed in a white coat and exuded a strong aura. Coupled with his cool expression and disdainful gaze, Tang Ning couldn't help but laugh. Compared to Bei Qindong, this man was more like a brother to Mo Ting. What are you laughing at? Mo Ting asked as he furrowed his brows. Nothing. I just suddenly understood why Tang Yichen doesn't want to go home. With such a handsome teacher, if I was in her position, I wouldn't want to go home either, Tang Ning replied. Is he your type? I was just saying, Mr. Mo. Tang Ning quickly comforted the jealous man. Plus, based on her woman's intuition, she could tell from the conversation between Tang Yichen and the man that their relationship was very close. Even if they were just teacher and student, there must be a deep relationship between them. Therefore, she was not at all worried that the man would really ignore Guagua as he had said. As expected, it didn't take long before Tang Yichen invited the Mo couple into the surgery room. At this time, the man said coldly, "There's no need to be nervous. Leave the child here for a couple of days. Go do what you need to do." Lu Guangli. Tang Yichen tugged on his sleeve awkwardly. She was obviously supposed to be closer to Tang Ning. But when Tang Ning saw this, she seemed to understand something. You need to call him teacher. Lu Guangli lectured in a serious tone. Tang Yichen glared at him while he looked at the Mo couple. Tang Yichen had no choice but to say, "Don't worry, I will take care of Guagua. You guys can go home." Seeing that the two men were unmoved, Tang Yichen added, "It's really just a small problem. In that case, I'll come back in the afternoon to take care of Guagua." "No need," Lu Guangli replied. "As soon as the child recovers, I will notify you to take him home. If the family is here, it will only make things worse for the nurses." After speaking, Lu Guangli once again left the surgery room. "He's just like that, but he's very capable," Tang Yichen explained. Tang Yichen explained on behalf of Lu Guangli. Although she has a sharp tongue, her medical skills are better than President Mo's entire medical team. When was he your teacher? Tang Ning couldn't help but be curious. A university. You started university at 19. That means you've known each other for 8 to 9 years, right? Tang Yichen did not respond, but Tang Ning knew what she was thinking, so she did not ask further. How could we not worry about leaving Guagua here on his own? But, since Dr. Lu insists, we will go home and wait for news. If anything happens, let me know as soon as possible. Don't worry, this is President Mo's first time as a father, so he definitely doesn't have much experience. Children aren't easy to take care of, even if you've been very responsible. So, you don't need to worry about it. Tang Ning nodded her head and returned home with Mo Ting. However, as soon as they left the hospital, Mo Ting asked Lu Che to investigate Lu Guangli's background. After Lu Che did a background check, his eyes grew wide in shock. After all, it was quite surprising for someone to have accomplished so many great feats in the medical field at such a young age. However, no one expected that Tong Ning's argument with Tan Suling at the hospital would become a huge entertainment news story. Chapter 789. Shocking. Her son was hospitalized 3 times. Yet Tong Ning did not appear at the hospital even once. Rumor has it that Tong Ning doesn't have any feelings for her son. Her marriage with Mo Ting was simply a mutual benefit. The best acting for a marriage of convenience. Tong Ning has put all her skills into deceiving. According to the latest news from Entertainment Weekly, actress Tong Ning has been revealed to have no feelings for her son. While she was filming, her son was hospitalized 3 times, but she was never seen at the hospital. It seems she doesn't care about her son's health and is rumored to have a marriage of convenience with Mo Ting. After finding out about the situation, our reporters immediately headed over to the hospital where Tong Ning's son was previously treated. In the end, they found out from the hospital that their son had indeed been seriously ill multiple times and had only seen Mo Ting, not Tong Ning. It seems the rumors of a marriage of convenience aren't baseless. Not only that, we also interviewed the doctor that previously treated Tong Ning's son. As for the truth, please take a look at the video. The hospital has a duty to keep the patient's information confidential. So, I don't have the right to say too much about my son's illness. But during the few times my son was hospitalized, I did not see his mother. I only saw his father, Tan Suling said calmly in the video. As for whether Tong Ning loves her son or not, I'm afraid only she knows. If Tan Suling's first sentence didn't have much meaning, then the second half of Tan Suling's sentence had a deeper meaning. It was obvious there was a hidden meaning behind her words. Tan Suling's words also had the intention of deliberately causing misunderstandings. I'm not in a position to comment on anything else. Thank you. As soon as the video was released, everyone felt that Tong Ning couldn't possibly have done something like this. After all, it didn't fit her image. But the doctor at the hospital had personally confirmed that while her son was sick, not only did Tong Ning not take care of him, she did not even appear at the hospital. Could it be that the image that she had created in the past was all fake? This inevitably caused the mother fans to feel annoyed. In their hearts, Tong Ning was already a mother. Even if she didn't take care of her son, she should at least visit him when he was sick, right? But she didn't. She deserves it. Her son was so sick at that time, yet she still forcibly transferred her son to another hospital. Just because Dr. Tan from our pediatrics department had a problem with her, she completely disregarded her son's health and transferred him away. Although our Dr. Tan's words are a little harsh, she is definitely thinking about the child. She just can't stand irresponsible mothers. If they don't take care of the child, why did they give birth to the child? Public artists these days are getting worse and worse. For the sake of benefits, they can sacrifice anything. All in all, the outside world was filled with vicious words towards Tong Ning. Seeing this, Mo Ting flew into a rage for the first time in his office. In the past, he had never paid attention to the medical industry. Who would have thought the industry was just as messy, twisting right and wrong? Seeing that Mo Ting did not say a word, Tong Ning could tell he was definitely furious. So, she gently held onto his hand, trying to calm him down. I didn't do a good job in public relations and didn't protect your reputation. I should have told you earlier. I've weathered so many storms. Why would I be afraid of this? Tong Ning shook her head with a smile. Mo Ting wrapped his arm around Tong Ning's head and pressed her onto his shoulder. Don't worry, I'll get justice for you. This PR wasn't easy to do. After all, doctors were a special group of people. The words that came out of their mouths were always authoritative. After all, a doctor's responsibility was to save lives. If there was a problem, they could say it as it was, and it didn't involve stealing resources. So, there was no need to deliberately slander Tong Ning. On top of that, modern people were under a lot of pressure, so most people were more or less paranoid. So, it was understandable that they would naturally think the worst of others. Afterwards, the director of Survivor gave Mo Ting a phone call, President Mo, Tangning's incident has blown up a lot. You need to quickly deal with it before it affects the entire crew's reputation and progress. Don't worry, Mo Ting replied with two simple words. Tangning remained calm, as usual. Apart from asking Tang Yichen about Guoguo's condition over the phone, she did not take the incident to heart. After being slandered so many times, she was already used to it. Mo Ting knew that if Hai Rui stepped forward, it would seem like they were trying to justify themselves. So, he thought of Tang Yichen. After seeing the news, Tang Yichen expressed her disgust towards Tan Suling. Even if Mo Ting didn't make the arrangements, she would still speak up for Tangning. Guoguo is currently in the military hospital. He simply has a fever because his immune system is weak. He isn't seriously ill or on the verge of death like the rumors say, Tang Yichen said as she released Guoguo's medical report. Secondly, I need to clarify why Tangning transferred Guoguo to another hospital. Firstly, Guoguo had a high fever and mild pneumonia. At that time, Tangning invited the attending doctor, Mr. Tan, to treat him. But because of his own emotions, Mr. Tan scolded Tangning. Tangning did not respond the first 2 times, but the doctor actually said something like, I don't want to treat a mother like you. Since she didn't want to treat him as the mother, Tangning naturally wanted to find a better doctor. So, she contacted me. Is that wrong? Secondly, regarding the fact that Tangning didn't show her face multiple times, apart from the fact that she didn't treat the child well, could there be another reason? For example, could it be that Tangning didn't know about this matter at all? My brother-in-law is famous for doting on his wife. To prevent Tangning from worrying, he could have taken responsibility for this matter himself. Most importantly, I would like to remind everyone that when a doctor from a certain hospital scolds someone, he should take care of his own image. As a doctor that demands parents to watch over their child 24/7, have you ever considered taking responsibility when you say something like that? As a parent, which of you can put your child first at all times and not feel tired 24/7? You can believe whatever you want to believe in what I've said today. But those that spread rumors about my nephew's illness can leave now. Also, please remember to be polite with your words. No matter what the truth was, it was certain that Guoguo wasn't seriously ill. Meanwhile, Tang Yichen's words reminded parents that not every doctor was responsible, especially those that had been tortured by Tan Suling. I never thought that this doctor would still be around. Although she's good at medicine, she has a lot of problems as a person. Previously, when my mother took my son to the hospital, she insisted that my mother stay by my son's side through the night. She said that she couldn't let her son feel like no one cares about him. Can I say that she's sick? This doctor is really harsh. Tangning must have been wronged. Chapter 790. The Fei Tian Awards ceremony is about to begin. I feel like someone is deliberately slandering Tangning. No matter what, they've gone too far this time. Besides, this is a family matter. It's fine if the couple is anxious when their child is sick, but they've even been stabbed in the back by the doctor. It's really unfair. I think I'll wait and see. What if there's a comeback? Nowadays, whenever news broke in the industry, it took a few days to find out the truth. So, it was hard to tell who was right and who was wrong. But Tang Yichen's words indeed angered Tan Suling. It was natural for a mother to take care of her child. So what if the doctor said a few words to a mother? Was her heart made of glass? Couldn't she accept it? A child's weak immune system can be mild or severe. In severe cases, it can even lead to premature death. How is that not considered a serious illness? Plus, he's been sick a few times. I'm asking parents to take care of their children, but I'm not asking you to protect them all the time. Since he's been admitted to the hospital, he must have been sick. If I can't show him some love at a time like this, when will I ever be able to? Plus, it's the truth that Tangning has never cared about her son. I'm not lying. So, why is it that I'm the one that needs to take care of my own image? I've always behaved properly. As Tangning's sister, it's natural for her to speak up for her family. Is he fucking crazy? Even Long Jie, who was in her confinement period, couldn't help but curse after seeing Tan Suling's interview. Is this doctor's brain made of tofu? Who knows? All in all, This battle has already spread from the entertainment industry to the medical industry. Lu Che replied as he sat beside Long Jie and peeled a piece of fruit. Will this affect Tongning's Fei Tian Awards? How will it affect it? Seeing this, Long Jie nodded her head in relief, as long as it doesn't. But since things had gotten to this point, if Mo Ting didn't teach her a lesson, she wouldn't realize who she had offended. In reality, the hospital chief had long wanted to fire Tan Suling, but he couldn't find a good reason to do so. When a person's personality has a problem and makes the people around her uncomfortable, then she will definitely become the target of public criticism, because countless people will talk behind her back about how bad she is and how disgusting she is. So, taking this opportunity, the hospital chief took the opportunity to speak to Tan Suling. Suling, to be honest, you are very outstanding. After serving in our hospital for so long, your professionalism is undeniable and you are one of the best doctors in the country. But you have offended Hai Rui this time. Our hospital cannot withstand such a huge storm. So, we would like to ask you to find another job. The dean's words were already polite enough. If it was any other clan, they would have long since flown into a rage. Tan Suling felt that her pride had suffered a blow and that Hai Rui had done something to make things difficult for her. So, she said to the hospital chief, "You will definitely regret this. I'm a dignified doctor. I've saved lives and healed injuries. I've treated countless patients. But now, because of that dirty deal, you're treating me like this. It's simply disappointing." Tan Suling didn't only say this to the hospital chief, she also said it to the media. Everything happened too suddenly. I was fired by the hospital because I offended Hai Rui and the hospital didn't want any trouble. Some people laughed at Tan Suling's straightforward personality. She was brave enough to say anything. At the same time, some people felt it was unfair for her. It's not like this is the first time Hai Rui has done this. Being fired is already a light punishment. This doctor is quite pitiful. Who told her to offend Mo Ting? How pitiful. No, Hai Rui can't always use this method to solve problems. But what was the reality? Hai Rui was dumbfounded. From the looks of it, Tan Suling is so unpopular that even the hospital chief can't stand it anymore. As soon as the news broke out, he immediately fired Tan Suling and tried to make Hai Rui take the blame. He sure played his cards well. Our Hai Rui sure knows how to take all kinds of blame. These were Fong Yu's exact words. Making Mo Ting take the blame? It seemed they had found the wrong person. Go visit the doctors at the hospital. I'm sure we'll be able to find some clues and evidence, Mo Ting instructed. Otherwise, Hai Rui would really look like they were pressuring them. Don't worry, we'll have some news very soon. Collecting information wasn't just Lu Che's forte. Fong Yu was also very good at it. Although the incident was caused by Guogua's illness, this negative attitude had affected Hai Rui's reputation. It didn't take long before Fong Yu received news that the people he had found had enough evidence to prove that there was something wrong with Tan Suling's personality and that the hospital couldn't tolerate it any longer. Did they even want to bully Hai Rui? Afterwards, Fong Yu told Tongning about the incident over the phone. After hearing about it, Tongning simply said, "Deal with it the way it should be dealt with." After being slandered so many times, she had already calmed down. But that didn't mean she was willing to forgive Tan Suling. Tongning's relaxed attitude meant that she allowed Mo Ting to do whatever he wanted. But if Mo Ting were to make a move, then, whether it was Tan Suling or the hospital, they would both end up in a bad state. Make an appointment with the hospital chief. I'll personally take a look. As soon as Fong Yu heard this, he felt the show was about to start. So, he did not waste a single second as he pretended to be from a rich family and arranged to meet the hospital chief at a hotel. Meanwhile, apart from Mo Ting, the most powerful entertainment reporter in Beijing was also waiting for the hospital chief. Anyone that provoked President Mo would never end up well. Hopefully, the hospital chief wouldn't end up in such a sorry state. The Fei Tian Awards was just around the corner. So Fong Yu knew that Mo Ting had to deal with everything before the awards ceremony. He wanted Tongning to appear at the awards ceremony as the perfect goddess in everyone's eyes. The next morning, Mo Ting made an appointment with the hospital chief. The hospital chief had no idea what was about to happen. He simply thought a rich family had invited him to meet them to discuss their family's condition. But as soon as he pushed open the hotel room door, he was completely stunned. Because apart from the media, there was only Mo Ting. I think I entered the wrong room. The hospital chief turned to leave because he thought he had entered the wrong room. But Mo Ting held him back. Chief Lin, you didn't enter the wrong room. Mo Ting's voice was deep and alluring, shocking everyone present. Dean Lin's expression turned exceptionally ugly in an instant. Chapter 791. What? If I understand correctly, according to the rumors, I should be very familiar with the chief. But it seems Chief Lin doesn't want to see me, Mo Ting said with a smile. Chief Lin hesitated for a long time, but in the end, he had no choice but to enter the room and sit down opposite Mo Ting. But as soon as he sat down, he felt uncomfortable all over. It was because Mo Ting was surrounded by a black hole of cameras. Above all, when faced with Mo Ting, one glance was enough to make a person feel a sense of fear. He was too dangerous. If Mr. Mo wanted to see me, he didn't need to go through so much trouble. If I didn't go through so much trouble, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to see Chief Lin, Mo Ting said with a hidden meaning. Afterwards, his expression turned cold with a hint of seriousness and danger. I simply want to know what Hai Rue has done to your hospital for you to be so afraid that you want to fire your doctor. That's right. I want to know what Hai Rue has done to your hospital. There are rumors that Hai Rue has pressured you. Chief Lin, has Hai Rue really pressured you? According to Dr. Tan, we have made a dirty deal. After I heard about it, I was very angry. How could an entertainment empire like ours make a deal with someone just to suppress an insensible doctor? I personally don't think Dr. Tan has the right to do that. Chief Lin, what do you think? Chief Lin felt a little embarrassed. He never expected that his words would be leaked to the outside world, nor did he expect that Mo Ting would personally come looking for him. This was completely unfounded. Now that he had been caught red-handed, how was he to answer in order to save his face? I think Dr. Tan has misunderstood. In that case, can Chief Lin tell me why you fired Dr. Tan? That? Chief Lin froze. You can't answer? That's fine. I'll answer it for you. After speaking, Mo Ting pulled out his phone and played a recording. In front of the media, who in the hospital doesn't know that Tan Suling's EQ is notoriously low? She often offends patients' family members and has caused a lot of trouble. The chief has long wanted to fire her. It's not that I don't want to say this, but Tan Suling is crazy. The hospital is in a mess because of her. Previously, Tan Suling had publicly embarrassed the headmaster. At that time, the headmaster already harbored hatred towards her. At least 80% of the people in the hospital want Tan Suling to leave. These recordings came from the doctors at your hospital. From the recordings, we can tell that Tan Suling wasn't liked by anyone at the hospital. So, the hospital chief used the excuse of angering Hai Rue to fire her. Is that right? Of course not. Dean Lin hurriedly denied. Then what's the reason? Mo Ting asked again. However, this time, Dean Lin stuttered and could not give a proper explanation. Tan Suling is venting all her negative emotions on Hai Rue, but we are innocent. What have we done wrong? Mo Ting asked as he put away his phone. Chief Lin, you are bullying the wrong person. Whether it's me or Hai Rue, your position is correct. You can't afford to offend either of them. Since you can't afford to offend them, you shouldn't have tried to frame them. We won't take the blame for firing Tan Suling. Chief Lin's face immediately turned red and white. If it didn't involve my wife, I wouldn't even want to see a tiny hospital chief like you. If you don't want to clarify the matter, then don't blame me for being heartless. This is what I call a threat. Facing the cameras, Mo Ting was truly angered, because every word he spoke was filled with danger. As soon as one heard it, they couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. I have no interest in your personal grudges, but I can't allow it to involve Hai Rue and my wife. This last no sounded like an order from the devil. After hearing this, Chief Lin felt he needed to clarify the matter as soon as possible. He didn't want to anger Mo Ting. Mr. Mo, I'm sorry. We were afraid of the rumors that were spreading around and caused a negative impact on Hai Rue. I'm truly sorry, Chief Lin explained sincerely. This matter is a personal grudge between us and Tan Suling. It has nothing to do with Hai Rue. I hope everyone doesn't misunderstand. Since it's a misunderstanding, let's clarify the real reason why we fired Tan Suling. Since this is an internal problem, can you let us handle it on our own? Chief Lin tried to negotiate with Mo Ting. When the public criticized Hai Rue, no one discussed it with us, Mo Ting replied in a deep voice. When the public bullied my wife because of Tan Suling, they didn't discuss it with me either. So, I also wanted to discuss it with someone. Chief Lin had no choice but to let out a long sigh. He then unwillingly explained to the media, our hospital must admit that Tan Suling is indeed a talent, but Tan Suling is also the doctor that our hospital has received the most complaints about. It's not because she treats her patients inappropriately, but because she's never polite to her patients' family members. At the same time, she is also the doctor that receives the most complaints. Because of her personal emotions, she often makes the working environment of her colleagues difficult. That's why the hospital made this decision. For causing the public to misunderstand Hai Rue, I would like to apologize to President Mo on behalf of the hospital. I hope President Mo won't take it to heart. We indeed didn't handle the matter properly and have let down everyone's trust. It's Tan Suling's problem, Mo Ting emphasized. He then continued, at the time, Guo was sick and I sent him to the hospital. Dr. Tan didn't get to see Tongning, so she hoped to see her son's mother next time. As it wasn't the first time Guo had a fever and his immune system was weak, I didn't tell Tongning about it. I knew that as soon as she heard that her son was sick, she would immediately rush home. She is the female lead and the core of the entire production. She couldn't just leave the staff to one side. So, I hid it from her. But Dr. Tan became biased against my wife because she didn't see her. The final time Guo had a fever, Tongning took time off from the set and rushed home late at night. The next day, she sent Guo to the hospital and was immediately scolded by Dr. Tan. That's the entire story. Tongning and I weren't married for show. I love my wife more than anyone else. We were indeed taking what we needed, but what we needed was each other's love. Hearing this, the reporters couldn't help but ask, but if Tongning really fulfilled her responsibility as a mother, why did her son have a weak immune system? Didn't Tongning already have a problem when she was pregnant? Hearing this question, Mo Ting suddenly let out a gentle laugh. Chapter 792. Guo's development was indeed delayed in his mother's womb. That's why he often got sick, Mo Ting replied honestly. The reporters did not expect Mo Ting to respond in this way, so their eyes grew wide. Could it be that Tongning had never cared about her children's health from the moment she got pregnant? That's because my wife gave birth to twins. All of a sudden, the reporters froze. They felt like they were hallucinating. What did Mo Ting just say? Tongning gave birth to twins? Guo was discovered a little late, and his development was delayed. Unlike his older brother, he didn't absorb enough nutrients, so his immune system was weak. With this explanation, everyone understood. Many people that had given birth to twins knew that sometimes twins would develop differently in their mother's womb. So, it was normal for the younger brother to be weaker than the older brother. So that's how it is. Tongning actually gave birth to twins, and the public never knew about it. Taking care of two children must be tough. No wonder President Mo's heart ached for Tongning and didn't want her to know that her children were sick. The reporters couldn't help but discuss amongst themselves. Does anyone still have any questions? The situation was already clear. Although Tan Suling's medical skills were excellent, she was indeed biased. This was the main reason why she was fired by the hospital. It wasn't like the rumors were saying that the hospital fired her because of pressure from Hai Rue. With so many people complaining about Tan Suling, it seemed she wasn't very likable. So, to prevent Tan Suling from causing trouble, the hospital threw the blame onto Hai Rue making everyone believe that Hairue had done something to harm their pure angel in white. Unfortunately, Mo Ting wasn't an ordinary person, and he wasn't someone that would easily take the blame. Who was Mo Ting? And who was Tongning? The two of them never took the initiative to pick a fight. However, even if they were provoked, they would never be afraid. They would definitely get to the bottom of the matter and seek justice for themselves. President Mo, will you release photos of the twins to the public? President Mo, will the twins enter the entertainment industry? Seeing that the questions had nothing to do with the scandal, Mo Ting straightened his suit jacket and stood up from the sofa. The matter was cleared up, but the punishment was not enough. Of course, Chief Lin was already prepared for the hospital to be criticized. But because Tan Suling's morals were indeed damaged, the hospital did not have to bear much responsibility. On the other hand, Tan Suling was in for a hard time. However, something that Dean Lin did not expect was yet to come. Mo Ting personally stepped out to clarify all of Tongning's scandals. He also stated that they were a normal married couple and that they had a pair of twin sons. After this, the truth of the incident was finally revealed. But the public's attention was now on Tan Suling, because they were very curious about what a doctor had to do to be hated by so many people and to be disliked by so many people. Therefore, many people started to look into Tan Suling and found that she really had what the patient's family members had said, that she was a little crazy. A doctor might do his best for his patients, but he also needs to comfort the patient's family members. Don't you think it's strange for a doctor to blame the patient's family members indiscriminately? Such a beautiful girl. What a pity. I always feel that she suffers from severe paranoia. I study psychology. Let me give Dr. Tan my contact details. You really do suffer from a mental illness. When a person is hated by a small portion of people, it can be said that it's because of jealousy. But when a large group of people hate them, then their personality must be flawed. No wonder Tongning transferred the child to another hospital. I understand. Tan Suling never imagined that in such a short period of time, the situation would turn around like this, and she would be criticized by so many people. Father and Mother Tan couldn't help but comfort their daughter. Baby, I've made an appointment with the best psychiatrist for you. Why don't I go with you tomorrow? Mom, even you think that I'm crazy? You are crazy, Father Tan replied straightforwardly. It's a serious case of paranoia. Tan Suling never expected that even her own parents would misunderstand her. So, in a fit of anger, she stormed out of the house. But as soon as she stepped onto the streets, she was constantly being pointed at. Worst of all, she realized that she had no friends at all. There's something wrong with this woman's brain. It's best to stay away from her. She's a doctor, yet she doesn't even know that she's sick. What a joke. Tan Suling felt extremely wronged. After all, she only had one goal in mind. She wanted the best for her child. She thought she was great, but she was misunderstood by the entire world. After this incident, Tongning no longer had anything to slander. After all, everything that could be slandered and everything that could be slandered had already been slandered. Tonight was the Fei Tian Award ceremony. But that morning, Mo Ting even stepped out to clear his wife's name. Apart from filming, she was actually a normal person. So, after having a child, she wanted to be treated like a normal person. But in this industry, she had no choice but to do what she wanted. That evening, Mo Ting returned home. Seeing Tongning sitting on the sofa in a daze, he asked, "Why aren't you getting ready? We're about to set off." Tongning let out a gentle laugh as she stood up and headed for the wardrobe. But halfway there, she suddenly turned around and said to Mo Ting, "I'm thinking from now on, I should be more open to everyone. For example, when I see the paparazzi, I should greet them naturally." Mo Ting immediately understood what Tongning meant. She should just follow her heart. In order to accompany his wife to the award ceremony, Mo Ting naturally dressed up for the occasion. He was dressed in a dark blue retro double-breasted suit, and his hair was neatly combed. His entire body exuded the aura of an aristocrat. No matter how old he was, Mo Ting was still Mo Ting. There was no trace of age on his face. Soon, Tongning also finished dressing up. She was dressed in an aqua blue dress with stars on it. She looked ethereal and refined. Coupled with the fact that her accessories were all stars, the Tongning at this moment was like the most beautiful scenery in the world to Mo Ting. Let's go. This day was an important day for Tongning. Although she did not show it, Mo Ting could sense her nervousness. Who didn't want the Best Actress award? It had been a year. The image of her fighting for the Best Newcomer award was still fresh in her mind. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed, and her old rivals were no longer around. Why are you trembling? Mo Ting held on to Tongning's hand on the way there, and realized she was acting a little strange. Because I feel like there might be an accident. I've always been blessed with setbacks. Tongning smiled bitterly. Chapter 793. I won't. Mo Ting held on to Tongning's hand tightly. They had already been married for over 2 years. Their feelings for each other had already penetrated deep into their bones. Tongning was indeed nervous, but with Mo Ting's comforting words, she suddenly relaxed. With this man by her side, it didn't matter if she won an award or not. Soon, the black Rolls-Royce arrived at the Fei Tian Awards venue. At one end of the red carpet, Tongning held on to Mo Ting's hand as they walked up the steps. Because of the couple's appearance, the reporters almost broke through the barriers. Unfortunately, with Mo Ting around, even if they wanted to, they didn't have the guts to do so. Tongning, Mo Ting. Tongning, look over here. Tongning, Daddy Ting. Hold on to our Tongning's hand and protect her well. Not too far away, a fan holding up a placard yelled at the couple. Tongning couldn't help but look in that direction and smile. Afterwards, she watched as Mo Ting carried her in his arms. The intimate look on their faces made the fans roar in excitement. Tongning had always lived in seclusion. After she changed careers and became an actress, she barely appeared on any variety shows, let alone accepted any interviews. She had only made an appearance for a few private events. So, it wasn't easy for fans to see her, let alone at an event like this where she and Mo Ting were together. The host of the award ceremony was standing in front of the signature wall. As soon as he saw the couple, he naturally greeted them. However, because of Mo Ting's presence, the host did not dare to joke around with Tongning, because it made them feel like Tongning wasn't here to receive an award, but was instead here to inspect the venue with the higher-ups. Our president Mo sure is considerate towards his wife. He's always by her side to protect her. But, as the host of the show, I would like to ask you a question. Can you tell us how your baby is doing? He's doing well. Thank you for your concern. Tongning replied in seriousness. I know that my child's illness has caused a huge commotion and caused a lot of trouble. I'm truly sorry. Tongning's words were filled with remorse. In fact, she spoke with sincerity and even a tinge of grievance. This made the host's heart lift. I believe that as a mother, you've already done your best. No matter who you become, you will always do your best. So, being a mother is no different. We believe in you too. The fans behind her screamed and cheered for her. You are the undisputed queen of the night. In reality, apart from the Tongning couple, there was also a heavenly king who had just returned from overseas and was once popular. It didn't take long before the 1-hour red carpet event ended. At this time, Tongning and Mo Ting had already taken their seats according to the instructions given by the organizers. There were indeed a lot of familiar faces present, including Lin Sheng and a few other actors that they had worked with before. Bai Chendong was also on the list. However, he was a very stubborn person, so he never came to events like this. The leading figures in the hosting world spoke wittily on the stage. The opening song and dance performance also invited the most popular music group. Tongning overheard the people around her gossiping about the returning superstar. She then shook the back of Mo Ting's hand. It seems there are still things in this industry that I don't know about. Are you referring to the person that is returning to China today? Mo Ting asked. Yes. I'll tell you about it when we get home. Mo Ting whispered gently beside Tongning's ear. Let's watch the awards ceremony first. This year's awards ceremony was quite exciting. Over the past year, there have been a lot of good works, and many of them were people that Tongning was familiar with. Even Chen Xingyin received the Most Promising Newcomer award. At this time, Tang finally noticed that in Zaheo and Chen Xingyin were sitting 2 rows behind her. Chen Xingyin held onto his trophy and waved it towards Tang. Next up, we will be presenting the most important award of the Fei Tian Awards. It's time for the Best Actor Awards. In order to choose the Best Actor, our judges almost fight backstage every year. Next, let's welcome our guest presenter. The guest presenter was an experienced scriptwriter who had won many international awards. His partner was a professional film critic who was also internationally famous. An old man and a young man, one fat and one skinny, supported each other as they walked onto the stage. Afterwards, the old scriptwriter began to speak. When the organizing committee first invited me to present this award, I was quite surprised. As everyone knows, I am a very serious person. If the person that receives the award doesn't meet my requirements, I would have a problem with it and might even reject it. So, I went ahead and looked through the works of all the nominees. I am a very picky person when it comes to stories. As a result, I have high expectations for my actors. If I'm a person that has written for a lifetime, who would be willing to let their painstaking efforts go to waste on an actor? Luckily, the Fei Tian Awards has maintained its fairness. The nominees are indeed impeccable. In this way, I also understand why the judges of the organizing committee were fighting backstage. On the other side, the film critic also began to speak. The old man is right. A good film is the result of the industry's development. Only a good actor can bring out the best in a good script. As for a film that I agree with, it should be loved by the entire world. It represents the most honest values and contains the most sincere emotions that can resonate with the entire world. A film like this is impeccable, and I happen to know of a film that has a good reputation around the world. In that case, hurry up and tell us, what film is it? The film critic looked in the direction of Mo Ting and Tang Ning before he replied. From what I know, Stupid can't even compare to their own films in Europe and the US. Yet, the latest screenwriting textbooks have already included Stupid as an example. This is the first time this has happened. Speaking of which, I really admire President Mo from Hai Rue. As soon as Mo Ting heard this, he nodded at the film critic. All right, let's get straight to the point. Let's take a look at the outstanding actors who have won the Best Actor award this time. Please look at the big screen. After the film critic finished speaking, he directed everyone's attention to the big screen behind him. A moment later, a loud voice sounded from the screen. The winner of this year's Best Actress Fei Tian Awards is... At this moment, the spotlight was focused on the nominees and the atmosphere was extremely tense. Chapter 794. Tang Ning from The Lost Relative. In the film, Tang Ning used her role as a policewoman to portray the helplessness of 2 opposing identities. Congratulations, Tang Ning. As the 2 presenters on stage congratulated her, the audience erupted in applause and cheers. Tang Ning was a little surprised to hear her name being mentioned so easily. She felt a little flattered. Why are you still in a daze? Mo Ting reminded her with a smile. It's time to receive your award, my precious. Tang Ning turned around and hugged Mo Ting. At this moment, she felt like she was the moon surrounded by stars. Afterwards, Tang Ning stood up and headed towards the stage to receive her award. At this time, the bearded screenwriter continued. In reality, Hai Rue also sent her a few other films, including W.H. and The Forensic Concubine. I can say that Tang Ning's execution of both films was very good. She is a versatile Best Actress. Currently, she is filming a new film, Survivor. Apparently, it is another excellent film. I hope Tang Ning can continue to work hard and become an even better actress. I would like to share with everyone Tang Ning's results so far. The combined box office sales of her 3 films have already exceeded $6 billion. As for the results from overseas, she has already become a box office miracle. As for the drama, The Forensic Concubine, that she starred in, it has already achieved the highest viewership rating in the history of television dramas. As for online views, it has already exceeded $20 billion. And this is just a little over a year after she changed careers. I'm sure a lot of people will never reach her level. But it's undeniable that Tongning works harder than anyone else when she's an actress. At this time, Tongning was already standing on the stage beside the two presenters. At this moment, it was like the entire world was cheering for her. As the solemn music started playing and the heavy trophy was placed in Tongning's hands, she suddenly felt her eyes swell up. "Tongning, please give your acceptance speech," the presenter reminded with a smile. Tongning looked at the trophy in her hand and said to everyone in a choked voice, "To be honest, based on my past experience, I wasn't prepared to receive an award. I felt like it was too easy and didn't fit my image. But when I think back to every minute and second of filming, I suddenly feel that I'm very laughable because I almost forgot about the hardships I had to endure while filming. As everyone knows, I went from being a model to becoming an actress. I'm sure many of you have witnessed the trials and tribulations that I went through. Today, I finally received this heavy trophy. What I want to do the most now is to go home and feed my two sons, as well as cook dinner for my husband. I want to share my excitement with the person I love the most. I would like to thank everyone. At the same time, I would also like to thank the Feition Awards crew for giving me this award. This makes me realize that I am valuable to the film and television industry. Finally, I want to say to my husband, "You are my king." Ting sat in the dark as he watched Tongning bathe in the bright light. This was the woman he was going to send to the altar, the wife he was going to spend the rest of his life with. As for Tongning's words, it made Ting realize how much Tongning admired him. Afterwards, Tongning stepped off the stage and returned to Ting's side. In front of so many people, the couple couldn't help but kiss. "Wow! Oh God, look! It's so sweet, it's so sweet. I also want someone like this to spend the rest of my life with me." Afterwards, the Best Actor award was presented. But in the eyes of the couple, the awards ceremony was already over. However, other surprises soon followed. The Forensic Concubine actually won the Best Screenwriter award and the Most Popular Drama award. Of course, when it came to Ting's friendly performance, everyone was excited to talk about it. Everyone in the industry could tell that Ting hid his abilities well. But who had a way to make him return to acting? Apart from Tongning, no one. As for those that had previously questioned the couple's marriage and name, they no longer had anything to say. To use a line from a song, it was, "If this isn't love, then what's there to be sad about?" Soon, the award ceremony ended and Tongning and Ting left the venue. But before they boarded their car, a group of reporters followed behind them. Due to Ting's imposing manner, the reporters did not dare to approach them. They simply followed them from afar. But one female reporter approached Tongning and said, I have a diet that has been passed down for generations. If you consume it over a long period of time, it can help you improve your immune system." Tongning received the paper from the woman and smiled. "Thank you. I will give it a try and let you know if it works." The woman did not expect Tongning to be so easy to talk to. So, she scratched her head in embarrassment and shook her head. "It's my honor that you're willing to give it a try. We are all the same." After speaking, Tongning was escorted into the Rolls-Royce by Ting, leaving behind the female reporter. Perhaps she would remain a reporter for the rest of her life. Tongning was definitely the best actress she had ever come across. In reality, the feeling that Tongning gave off was that she was willing to face the world with kindness. But that was only if the world treated her with kindness in return. After boarding the car, Tongning couldn't help but sigh. Actually, the media isn't just annoying. There are also warm-hearted people. Ting glanced at her. Just as he was about to respond, the driver suddenly slammed on the brakes and stopped the car on the side of the road. "Sorry, Mr. Mo. What happened?" "Someone fainted in front," the driver replied. "Give them a call and send them to the hospital." Seeing the news of Tongning's award, Long Jie was happier than anyone else in the hospital. In the past, Tongning had been under her control for so many years and had always been stepped all over by Euro. But now, she was the beloved best actress. "Stop looking at it. Go to bed early," Lu Che reminded Long Jie. "It won't be too late to congratulate her after she's done with her confinement." Sometimes I really envy her. Long Jie put down her phone and lay down obediently. But, to her surprise, the next morning, the person sitting by her bedside wasn't Lu Che, but Mother Lu. "Mom, why are you?" "Lie down." Mother Lu's eyes were filled with tears. Mother Lu's eyes turned red as she said to Long Jie, "Xiaoman, I actually have something I want to talk to you about." "Mom, what's the matter? Just tell me," Long Jie replied as she lay on her side. Even though she had a feeling that what Mother Lu was about to say was definitely going to hurt someone. "You and Xiao Che should hurry up and have another child. Okay? Have a son. I don't want anything else. I just want to have a grandson." Long Jie never imagined that Mother Lu, who came from such a prestigious family, would actually have a preference for boys. But things weren't that simple. Chapter 795. As long as you give birth to another son for the Lu family, from now on, I will no longer get involved with your relationship. Mother Lu's eyes turned red. Obviously, she wasn't feeling too good after saying something like this. "Really, Xiaoman, Mom is begging you." "No, Mom, this kind of thing. I know it's hard for you, but can you treat it as giving birth to another child for Xiao Che?" Before Long Jie could ask for the reason, Lu Che pushed open the door. Seeing the two women's red eyes, he could guess something had happened. But, at the same time, before he could ask, Mother Lu gave Long Jie a look. Long Jie was a sensitive person, so she naturally understood what Mother Lu was trying to tell her not to tell Lu Che. "Since you're here, I'll be leaving first." Mother Lu did not give Lu Che a chance to ask as she directly left the room. Afterwards, Lu Che looked at Long Jie, but she simply shook her head. "Mom hasn't had a chance to say anything yet." Lu Che sighed and sat down beside Long Jie. "From the first day we started dating, I told you not to care about my parents' attitude. After all, I was going to live with you for the rest of my life. But now that our daughter has been born, you still can't change your habit of keeping everything in your heart. Am I really not needed by you?" Long Jie lowered her head and thought for a moment. Finally, she lifted her head and said firmly to Lu Che, "Mom begged me to give birth to another son for you." After hearing this, Lu Che didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But why? "Mom has never mentioned it to me before. Before I had a chance to ask, you came in." This time, Long Jie was telling the truth. "Although I don't want to hold it against her, the way Mom treats me makes me feel like a tool for giving birth. Plus, what's wrong with having a daughter? You're done with your postpartum confinement. We'll head home in a bit." Lu Che did not try to comfort Long Jie. Instead, he changed the subject. "Mom and Dad will be home for lunch this afternoon." Long Jie didn't know what Lu Che wanted to do, so she felt a little worried. "What are you planning?" "Just a family meal together," Lu Che replied casually. After speaking, he handed the phone to Long Jie. "Weren't you anxious to congratulate the madam last night? Let's make a phone call and congratulate madam." Long Jie's attention was successfully diverted as she took the phone from Lu Che's hands. "I almost forgot about this." Thinking back on the many years they had spent together, Long Jie was genuinely happy for Tangning's achievements. After all, when she was suppressed by Han Yufan, she never imagined Tangning would have this day. Lu Che watched as Long Jie dialed Tangning's number and let out a sigh of relief. Sometimes, as a son and a husband, they were destined to face difficulties when it came to family matters. But he was already a father. If he didn't step out and make a statement, how would Long Jie and their daughter feel safe? News of Tangning winning the Best Actress award was currently trending online. As for her previous movie, it was rediscovered and returned to the top of all the major video streaming websites. This was the effect of a classic and a symbol of a legend. At this time, Tangning was about to rush back to the set of Survivor to confirm that Guogua had recovered. On top of that, on the way home from the award ceremony, a woman was hit by the driver. To be exact, the woman had suddenly crossed the road. To make it easier for her to visit Guogua, Tangning asked the driver to take her straight to the military hospital for Tang Yichin to take care of. Originally, they wanted to call the woman's family, but they discovered that the woman did not have a phone on her and did not have anyone's contact details. So, they had no choice but to wait for the woman to wake up and ask her about her condition. Before Tongning left, she visited Guogua at the hospital. At this time, the woman had already woken up. But she refused to say anything and refused to seek medical attention. So as soon as she saw Tongning, she rolled out of bed and hugged onto Tongning's thigh. "I know you're the most popular actress in Beijing. Can I beg you? Please don't hand me over to them. Don't let the media find out about me." Tongning helped the woman up and over to the bed. "You need family to take care of you." "I don't need that." The woman immediately shook her head. "It wasn't easy for me to escape." "Why do you need to use the word escape when talking to family?" Hearing Tongning's question, the woman fell silent and hesitated. But from the look in her eyes, it wasn't hard to tell that she was treating Tongning as her last hope. "It's because I have an extremely possessive brother. I don't want to be controlled by him anymore. Tongning, I beg of you, I don't want anyone to find me. As long as you can let me live in peace, I will do anything you want me to do. The reason why I crashed into the car last night was because I escaped from the awards ceremony." "Is your brother someone in the industry?" Tongning continued to ask. The woman remained silent for a few seconds before she nodded her head. Tongning also thought for a few seconds before she said to the woman, "I cherish fate. Since you crashed into our car, I can consider your request. But I have a bottom line in my heart that I hope you don't cross. Otherwise, I won't go easy on you. I'm about to head to the set, and I'm lacking an assistant. If you could do some chores, you can come with me." The woman looked at Tongning in a daze and nodded her head gratefully. "Thank you. I can do anything. What's your name?" "My name is Lin Xian," the woman replied. "Your surname is Lin," Tongning said with a deeper meaning. She then said to Lin Xian, "Go wash yourself up and follow me to the set. I'll go right away." Tongning knew that Lin Xian had a story, and it was likely to be a very interesting one. But she wasn't in a rush to ask or dig into it. Instead, she gave Lin Xian some hope. The reason why she was willing to help Lin Xian was because she noticed that there were bruises on Lin Xian's body that looked like she had been beaten up. If she had really escaped, it must have had a lot to do with avoiding these flesh wounds. "Although I've agreed to take you with me, you need to give me a resume. My husband won't allow an unknown person to follow me." "Okay, thank you, Ningjie." Lin Xian was calm as long as Tongning gave her a place to hide. From the look in her eyes, Tongning could tell that Lin Xian wasn't a calculative person. In fact, it was likely that she came from a wealthy background. Otherwise, how could a normal person be covered in luxury brands? The people in the industry. Yes, in this industry, there was no lack of dirty secrets. Meanwhile, Longjie and Lu Che had just returned home. Chapter 796. Mother Lu and Father Lu prepared the best crib and baby products for their granddaughter. But Longjie could tell that Mother Lu didn't do it willingly. It was because she wanted a grandchild. The atmosphere in the house was a little tense, but Lu Che seemed to have seen through it. So he said to Longjie, "You fed late last night. Go inside and have a nap." Longjie nodded her head. The good thing about Lu Che was that he always understood her difficulties. "What about our daughter? I'll coax her to sleep. She'll wake you up when she's hungry." Without any hesitation, Longjie headed straight into the bedroom. Lu Che carried his daughter and tried to test Mother Lu. But Mother Lu pretended nothing had happened and put on a perfect act. Lu Che did not expose her. He simply waited for lunch to arrive. Meanwhile, because Longjie was protected by Lu Che, she was relatively relaxed. But when it came time for lunch, the atmosphere at the dining table changed again. At that time, the baby was sleeping and the family of four sat at the dining table without a word. Longjie looked left and right, feeling uneasy. At this time, Lu Che suddenly put down his bowl and chopsticks, lifted his head, and asked Mother Lu, "Mom, I've thought about it when you spoke to Xiao Man this morning about wanting her to give birth to a son. I think a daughter is enough." Mama Lu's expression turned unusually ugly in that instant. "I don't know why you insist on Xiao Man giving birth to a son, but that is a matter between us. Although you are my mother, you can't interfere with my life. I've said this many times before. If you need anything, come to me. There's no need to make things difficult for Xiao Man every time." You know how much effort she's put in to make you like her. Mother Lu looked down at the bowl in front of her without a word. Plus, she just gave birth. As an elder, haven't you thought about whether it's appropriate to tell her something like this at a time like this? She is my wife. I married her because I love her. You're also a woman. Why must you make things difficult for your daughter-in-law? Mother Lu did not respond. She simply put down her chopsticks and stood up to leave. Father Lu was confused, but Lu Che remained calm. Long Jie tugged at his sleeve, feeling a little uneasy. Your words are too harsh. Don't worry, leave it to me. Why? What else could it be? Mama Lu suddenly returned to the dining table, her expression utterly furious. The Lu family no longer despises her birth and accepted her as a daughter-in-law. Is it really that hard to have her give birth to another child? I just mentioned it to her this morning, and she immediately complained to her husband. Long man, you're really something. That's what I found out. She wasn't prepared to tell me at all. Besides, we're husband and wife. If she wants to have a son, doesn't she need to tell me first? Lu Che's voice was a few times louder than before. I don't understand. What era are we in? Why do you have to place so many restrictions and demands on your own family? It's not like we're living a shitty life. Xiaoman also relies on her own hands to support herself. How is she worse than you? Where did your sectarian bias come from? How great are you? All right, let's not talk about it anymore. In any case, without a grandson, there's no need to talk about anything else. Seeing that Mother Lu didn't want to continue the conversation, Lu Che added, You don't respect my wife. Even if I have a son in the future, I will tell him the truth about how his grandmother treated his mother. Mom, a person should have a bottom line. I think you've grown up and have completely forgotten about your parents. Mother Lu burst into tears. Don't try to use this to threaten me. You know I hate it and won't be threatened like this. Lu Che protected Long Jie tightly. He knew, in this world, apart from her only family, he was the only one she could rely on. There were some things that a man had to do. Fine, I'll pretend I never had a son like you. After speaking, Mother Lu left the house, and Father Lu quickly chased after her. The dining room suddenly fell silent. Meanwhile, Long Jie leaned against Lu Che's shoulder and asked, Why did you do this? I need to protect you and our family. No one wanted to do this, but they always had to make a choice. Long Jie was moved as she sighed. Thank you for giving me the best sense of security during my most vulnerable time. This is what a husband and father should do. No matter what the reason was, it didn't make sense for Mother Lu to want a grandson. She could give advice, but she couldn't treat Long Jie like a tool. After all, she was also a woman. Mom doesn't like me. Is it because I'm in the entertainment industry? Does she think I'm dirty too? No, don't think too much about it, Lu Che replied. Or does she think I'm not capable? I know better than anyone whether you're capable or not. Xiaoman, no matter what you want to do, go ahead and do it. Lu Che couldn't deny that when it came to relationships, Mo Ting had set a good example for him, and he had some correct values. After all, he had never felt that women were weaker than men. Tongning was the best example of that. It was at this moment that Long Jie swore to herself that she could no longer rely on Lu Che to give her a sense of security like before. She needed to build her own confidence and give herself a sense of security. As for Mother Lu, she was prepared. As long as Mother Lu was willing, she would continue to be as filial as a daughter. But if Mother Lu insisted on causing trouble for her, she would no longer avoid it. She couldn't let Lu Che face problems on his own. So, she had a plan in mind. However, this plan would have to wait until her daughter was a little older. After Mo Ting received Lin Qian's resume, he instructed Fang Yu to investigate her background. In the end, he discovered that Lin Qian's background was completely clean. President, Lin Qian graduated from a prestigious overseas school. Being an assistant is a huge injustice for her. Is there anything else you want to say? Mo Ting didn't care which school Lin Qian graduated from. Interestingly, Lin Qian is the younger sister of Quan Zai, the heavenly king who returned to China for the Fei Tian Awards. Of course, she is merely an adopted daughter of the Quan family. But, from the looks of it, the relationship between the two siblings isn't simple. Fang Yu raised an eyebrow at Mo Ting. This is a hot potato? I can't believe Tong Ning accepted it. Quanzai, so what? Mo Ting asked without lifting his head. The young master of the devilish charm. Although I don't know why he left the industry, he is a charming man that can be compared to you. Chapter 797. Tong Ning returned to the set of Survivor with Lin Xian to congratulate her on winning the Fei Tian Best Actress Award. The crew prepared a celebration party and a huge cake for her. This way, Survivor could be promoted from Tong Ning to Best Actress Tong Ning. Tong Ning, you still have a long way to go. Although you've won a Fei Tian Award, if you want to completely conquer the hearts of the people, you still need work and time. This industry is all about fame and fortune. There are too many bad people out there. It's hard to be yourself forever. Tong Ning did not say a word as she continued to eat and drink with the crew. Finally, the director noticed Lin Xian's presence. This child is my new assistant, Tong Ning replied. I hope you can take care of her. You've been missing an assistant for a long time, the director said as he stood up from his seat. With that, the director stood up from his seat. I'm old and can't play anymore. It's better for you young people to play. Oh, right. There will be new actors joining the cast tomorrow. The first scene will be your scene together. You remember, right? Tong Ning smiled and nodded her head. Get some rest. Because of her award, Tong Ning's status in the crew slowly rose. Now, everyone on set had to address her respectfully as Ning Jie. Of course, this respect came from the bottom of their hearts. I don't need you to do most of the things, but there are some things that are a bit difficult for me to do myself, Tong Ning said. I understand, Lin Xian nodded. Although Tong Ning didn't like to put on airs, there were a lot of things that required an assistant to handle in advance. That way, she could save a lot of time. I've asked the staff to arrange a room for you. It's right next to mine. I have a scene tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Remember to wake up. After giving her instructions, Tong Ning turned and opened the door to her room. At this time, a woman suddenly ran through the corridor and almost bumped into Tong Ning. Sorry, Ning Jie. I was too excited to see you, so I couldn't control myself and acted on impulse. I hope you don't mind. I am a new actress on set, Su Xian. The woman was relatively skinny and looked like she hadn't had a good meal. But she had a warm smile and didn't look annoying at first glance. Rest early. Tong Ning shook the woman's hand and returned to her room, followed by Lin Xian. Su Xian stood in front of Tong Ning's room excitedly for quite some time before she reluctantly went to find her own room. The next morning, Tong Ning and Lin Xian were the first to arrive on set. After the makeup was done, Lin Xian almost didn't recognize Tong Ning. After all, Tong Ning had abandoned her glamorous identity from yesterday and turned into the old, ugly, and crazy woman from Survivor. Meanwhile, Su Xian's role was to search for her sister, who had died in a plane crash. Seeing the mess on Tong Ning's body, Su Xian couldn't take it anymore. Before the shoot started, she approached Tong Ning and said, Ning Jie, you've sacrificed a lot. Don't you feel bad seeing your hair sticking to your face? I said, Jie said, I said. I've always heard that your acting is very good, but I've only seen it in movies. Today, I can finally see your real acting skills. I'm really excited. Tong Ning gestured to Lin Xian, hoping that she would stop bothering her while she was reading her script. However, Lin Xian just kept on talking. It wasn't easy for Tong Ning to finally start filming, but she managed to complete it on the first try. Even when she was up against a much weaker Su Xian, she didn't make any mistakes. Great, Tong Ning, keep it up. After the scene was over, Tong Ning wanted to leave, but Su Xian held on to her. Ning Jie, can you teach me how to act? I really want to be like you. Seeing this, Lin Xian immediately approached Su Xian and said, Miss Su, Ning Jie needs to prepare for the next match. In that case, I'll wait until Ning Jie is free. However, one of the staff reminded Su Xian, Ning Jie is so busy. How could she have time to teach you how to act? It's best you don't add to her troubles. To be honest, after filming so many films, Tongning had never seen an actress like Su Xian. He was not jealous of her, nor was he trying to frame her. He was just pestering her to teach her how to act. If Su Xian was trying to scheme against her, Tongning would have been able to deal with her easily. But Su Xian was simply asking for help. This made things difficult. Ningjia, why don't I deal with Su Xian later? Lin Qian suggested. Don't go overboard. Don't hurt her self-esteem, Tongning reminded. Dressed in a long black dress, Lin Qian looked quiet and ladylike. Tongning was right. A person with this kind of taste couldn't have come from a normal family. Don't worry. After speaking, Lin Qian turned around and left. After Tongning returned to her next scene, she approached Su Xian and said, Miss Su, Ningjia may not have much free time over the next 2 days. Not only will she need to go down a well, she will also need to go rock climbing, so she may not have enough rest. So, if it's not too much of a hassle, I hope you can give her some time to rest and not disturb her. Let's have a chat after she finishes filming. Su Xian understood what Lin Qian meant, so she nodded her head, okay. Actually, I'm going to be quite busy over the next 2 days. Then it's settled. Su Xian appeared to be an easy person to talk to. She was petite and lively. But after Lin Qian left, Su Xian spat, stop pretending to be a gentleman. If you don't want to teach me, then say it. If you don't want to, then say it. Why beat around the bush? It didn't take long before Lin Qian returned to Tongning's side. At this time, Tongning was touching up her makeup. Is everything settled? Yes, Lin Qian nodded. Don't worry, Ningjia. The next scene was a relatively dangerous scene. Su Xian's character, played by Su Xian, disobeyed her family's advice and boarded a deserted island to search for her sister. But the people on the island stole her boat and robbed her of everything. In the end, they even tried to humiliate her. But Tongning appeared and saved the child. Cut! Su Xian, is that fear? You're comparing who has bigger eyes. You should learn from Tongning. The director suddenly yelled. Do it again. Cut! Su Xian, your character's emotions aren't right. Cut. You can't. Su Xian was confused by the director's 7 to 8 consecutive scenes. She had no idea how to continue filming. But the director continued to compare her to Tongning. Su Xian couldn't accept it. She thought to herself, Tongning was simply refusing to help her and refusing to teach her. Forget it. Su Xian, get some rest. Tongning, continue with the next scene. The next scene was Tongning hiding in a well to avoid being captured by pirates. Of course, filming a scene like this was quite dangerous. So, the props had to be checked and reinforced in advance. Tongning, get some rest for half an hour. If there are any problems, speak up loudly, the director instructed. Hearing the director's gentle words, Su Xian was unconvinced. But a scary thought suddenly appeared in her mind. She saw with her own eyes the props master preparing a wire for Tongning. Chapter 798. Late at night, Quan family. Quanzhao was lying on the sofa drinking wine. He was only wearing thin pajamas, and the heater in the room was not turned on. When the old housekeeper saw this, he immediately went into the room and found a furry blanket for him. Young master, it's cold. Have you found Qian Qian? Quanzhao narrowed his eyes and raised his wine glass high as he asked the butler. His actions were bewitching and extremely eye-catching. We haven't found her. It's like the second miss has evaporated into thin air. We've searched the entire capital, but we still can't find her, the old housekeeper replied. Young master, why don't we get out? Quanzhao knew what the old housekeeper was going to say, so he said coldly, other people might not know, but don't you know what Qian Qian means to me? The old steward sighed and finally said, I will continue to help you, young master. Hopefully, madam and master won't find any clues. Quanzhao sneered, so what if I find out? He and Lin Qian were not related by blood to begin with. Plus, he had desires for Lin Qian. How could he possibly be a good brother to her? Second miss wouldn't want you to do this. Madam's health isn't good. She wouldn't want to agitate madam. This kind of plot sucks. Quanzhao smashed his wine glass on the floor as if he was complaining about his status. Since that's the case, I'll cut ties with the Quan family and marry into your family. Is that okay? The old butler did not speak again. In fact, he even hoped that Quan Zai could go out and film so that he could meet more women. Even if they were from the entertainment industry, he would accept them. Lin Xian, don't even think about escaping. Fang Yu's investigation into Lin Xian continued. After he was done, he reported to Mo Ting in his office. Quan Zai isn't someone that plays by the rules, but he is extremely patient with Lin Xian. No matter where Lin Xian is, he will find all kinds of excuses to appear nearby. But Lin Xian is stubborn and has already rejected Quan Zai for many years. Even though Quan Zai has touched and kissed her, she will never give him a second chance. Interesting. Are you sure you want to keep such a dangerous person by Tongning's side? Fang Yu asked. If Quan Zai finds out, Beijing is going to be in chaos again. It doesn't matter as long as Ning likes it, Mo Ting replied calmly. Tongning's career had stabilized, but it wasn't stable enough. Simply winning one award was not enough to solidify Tongning's status. So, Mo Ting was not going to stop her from acting. He wanted to make her dreams come true. As for other matters, Mo Ting knew she knew how to weigh the pros and cons. Moreover, she needed a loyal and affectionate person by her side. Lin Xian was obviously a good candidate. However, Mo Ting had no idea that something big was about to happen to Tongning that very night. As it was a night scene, and to create a sense of danger, Tongning even added artificial rain as she descended into the well. Ningjie, it's going to be very dangerous in a moment. Are you sure you don't want to use a stunt double? Lin Xian looked at the staff and asked worriedly. There's no need. Tongning understood that Lin Xian hadn't gotten used to her work style, so she didn't need a substitute. She knew if the person that replaced her was Chun Xingyan, her family would be heartbroken. Lin Xian glanced at the props in the staff's hands and reminded them, make sure to take care of Ning Jie's safety. Don't worry, this well isn't a deep one. It's already been cleaned beforehand. But falling from such a height will still injure you, Lin Xian emphasized. Tongning could sense that Lin Xian truly cared about her. She was here to repay her debt of gratitude. Some people were like this. If you showed them a little kindness, they would be willing to repay you for the rest of their life. Okay, I will be careful. Okay, Tongning, let's begin, the director called out as the staff got into position. At the same time, Tongning was tied up with a steel cable, also known as a wire. Be careful. As Lin Xian watched Tongning act, she suddenly felt a little sad. She was reminded of Quan Zai. Did he experience the same thing when he was filming an action scene? She knew how much Quan Zai had done for her over the years, but she forced herself not to accept him because she couldn't let Mother Quan down. She had already liked Quan Zai since she was a student. But Mother Quan had warned her that if she dared to seduce Quan Zai, she would rather commit suicide than see Lin Xian become her daughter-in-law. The humiliation from many years ago was the main reason why Lin Xian refused to accept Quan Zai. She didn't care about her pride. She simply hated him. Ningjie. Oh God, Ningjie. As the sound of a rope being tied was heard, all the staff froze in shock. Tongning had actually fallen into the well. Lin Xian ran forward and turned to the staff, stop setting up the rain. Afterwards, she tried to jump into the well, but was stopped by the staff. You can't go. It's dangerous. If Tongning can go, why can't I? After speaking, Lin Xian wrapped the wire around her body and said to the staff, Quick, get someone to help me. Without hesitation, Lin Xian jumped into the well. Ningjie. Ningjie. I'm fine, Tongning replied. But I can't see. Lin Xian immediately turned on her phone and saw Tongning sitting in the well with blood all over her arm. Are you badly injured? It's okay, I can still hold it in. You're a woman. How could you just jump in like that? Lin Xian stood at the bottom of the well and immediately ran over to check on Tongning's injuries. I think you scraped your arm when you fell in. Does it hurt anywhere else? Don't make a big deal out of it. Don't give Ting a call either. Just pretend this never happened, Tongning instructed. It's normal to get hurt on set. Are you afraid that President Mo will worry? Lin Xian exposed Tongning. Of course, we can keep this a secret, but We need to know why it happened. That way, the staff will be more careful. Tongning looked at Lin Xian and realized she wasn't as weak as she appeared on the surface. She was actually quite strong. Ning Jie, Assistant Lin, are you okay? We'll pull you up right away, a staff member called out from the well. A moment later, Tongning and Lin Xian were pulled up. At this time, the director was already scolding the staff member. Su Xian was also nearby. As she saw the scene, she subconsciously looked at the safety belt that had been removed from Tongning's body. Tongning was so powerful, yet she still got hurt. Did she really think she was invincible? Director, I've really checked it. I'm serious. In that case, check it again, Lin Xian suddenly requested coldly. Chapter 799. Everyone was shocked when they heard Lin Xian say this in a sharp tone. Who would have thought that Tongning's new assistant that didn't like to talk had such a surprising side to her? Previously, she appeared to be quiet and didn't speak much. Originally, everyone thought she was a newcomer that didn't know how to interact with people in the industry. But, seeing how protective she was of Tongning, everyone on set began to respect and fear her even more. There's always a reason for an accident. You can't just blame her and let it go. After all, this is a matter of life and death. Assistant Lin is right. We need to investigate this matter thoroughly, the director added. After all, if the person that was injured was an ordinary actor, perhaps it would be easier to talk to them. But the person that was injured was Tongning. If Hai Rui pursued the matter, no one would be able to bear the responsibility. Assistant Lin, let's skip tonight's scenes. Take Tongning to the hospital first. Lin Xian nodded her head and looked at Tongning. The two of them had a tacit understanding. Since an incident like this happened on set, although they couldn't rule out the possibility of it being an accident, there was always a human factor involved. Everyone should go home and get some rest. Su Xian observed Tongning's movements from not too far away. As she looked at Tongning's injured arm, her expression remained calm. She knew that even if they investigated, they wouldn't be able to find out that she was the culprit. After doing this many times, she would naturally gain experience. She couldn't stand people's arrogance. After returning to her room, Lin Xian quickly checked Tongning's injury. Seeing that it was only a small scratch, she let out a sigh of relief. Luckily, it's not a serious injury. That way, I can answer to President Mo. It was just a shallow well to begin with, Tongning replied. Cold sweat broke out on her forehead as she endured the burning sensation of the disinfectant on her wound. As Lin Xian cleaned Tongning's wound, she looked at Tongning and asked, "Who do you think did this?" "I can't tell for now. From now on, we need to be more careful," Tongning replied straightforwardly. Noticing that Lin Xian's clothes were wet and dirty, she immediately reminded her, "Hurry and have a shower." "I know, but are you sure we don't need to tell President Mo?" Lin Xian asked again. "No need," Tongning shook her head. "He's already busy enough with 2 kids at home. Then call me if you need anything." Only after Lin Xian finished bandaging Tongning's wound did she notice the clothes she was wearing. She also noticed the disgusting smell. Seeing Lin Xian turn around, Tongning couldn't help but say, "From now on, you don't need to work so hard for me. I've always been a serious person," Lin Xian replied before returning to her room. Meanwhile, Tongning fell into deep thought. She originally thought that after receiving the most important award in the country, she would be untouchable in the industry. But she never expected that someone would still try to mess with her. It seemed that the entertainment industry was really endless. Thinking of this, Tongning suddenly felt a deep sense of disgust towards the industry. She wished she could have a clean working environment where she wouldn't be schemed against and didn't have unspoken rules. Everyone was born to act and didn't have to deal with so many melodramatic stories. Meanwhile, in the same hotel, on the same floor, at the end of the corridor, the thing that Tongning hated so much was happening, the unspoken rules. "Why are you looking for me so late at night?" As soon as the director opened the door and saw Su Xian standing there, he quickly looked out the door, afraid that someone would misunderstand. "Director, didn't I make a lot of takes during the day? That's why I wanted to ask you for advice." "I'm the director," and you're an actress. Why are you asking me for advice? I've also asked Ning Jie, but she doesn't seem to care about me. Su Xin said dangerously. Help me out. Su Xin was actually dressed conservatively, so the director relaxed a little. He thought that Su Xin was actually asking for advice. But as soon as he let her into the room, she immediately removed her jacket and stood naked in front of the director. What are you doing? Director, since you can't explain yourself now, why don't you? Su Xin deliberately got closer to the director and drew circles on his chest. I'm lonely. I don't want anything. I just want you to let me be your lover, and we can meet like this from time to time. That's all I want. Go away. The director pushed Su Xin away. Director, don't reject me. Su Xin was like an expert in the field of love. She knew exactly how to seduce a man's heart. Don't be fooled by her playful and harmless appearance. But for someone with no background to get to where she was and star in such an important film, how could she be simple? The director knew that he had fallen into a trap. Even if he wanted to explain himself, if there was a naked woman in the room, what would happen to his reputation? Above all, he couldn't resist Su Xion's seduction. I simply want to be with you. After this night, a lot of things were about to change. Meanwhile, Tongning's fate was about to change once again. So, what if she won an award? As long as she no longer appeared on screen, she would soon be forgotten. This was how cold-hearted fans were and how realistic the entertainment industry was. The next day, Tongning returned to the set. As soon as the director saw her off the set with her injuries, he couldn't help but say, "You didn't need to come so early." Apart from anything else, the director simply admired Tongning. He admired her seriousness and acting. Plus, Tongning was a guarantee of the box office. So, the importance that the director placed on Tongning wasn't just for show. But, after last night, the importance that Su Xian held in the director's heart changed. No man could resist a woman that was good in bed because it was addictive. So, when he saw Su Xian today, his expression was a lot more pleasant. Su Xian didn't deal with the director because she wanted to compete with Tongning. After all, she knew that she couldn't do it on her own. But if the director wanted to increase her screen time or do something else, she would definitely be able to do it. As for teaching Tongning a lesson, it was necessary. Although she wasn't famous at the moment, if she had the ability to make her life a little easier, why not? Seeing Tongning get injured, she was extremely happy. Ning Jie, it's too dangerous to film the scene in the well at night. Why don't we film it during the day? Or we can use a stunt double. The staff on set did not dare to joke around with Tongning's safety. No need. Just follow the original plan. This time, there won't be a problem, Tongning replied. When it came to acting, Tongning had high expectations. We're on the run to begin with. Filming with injuries makes it more realistic. Hearing this, the staff felt helpless. Ning Jie, don't make things difficult for the staff. They are simply thinking about your safety, Su Xian said as she approached. Everyone's job isn't easy. In that case, I'll ask the props team to check and maintain the props, Lin Qian said. After all, it's basic to do your job well. Chapter 800. When it came to this matter, Tongning wasn't going to take a step back. She was going to stay true to her identity. Plus, she didn't like it when someone else was involved in her own role. Everyone understood this, but the staff still looked upset. She felt like Tongning was making things difficult for her. After all, Tongning insisted on not using a stunt double. Afterwards, Su Xian comforted. Ning Jie is doing this for the sake of the film. She is truly professional. Who needs her to be so professional? No one can see behind the scenes, and the staff are the ones being tortured. How many actors these days are as serious as she is when it comes to filming? In reality, Lin Qian wasn't too far behind the two. Although she couldn't hear their conversation, she could tell that the staff was complaining. Afterwards, Lin Qian helped Tongning get some water and returned to her side. Be careful of the staff's revenge. It may not seem obvious, but it's often fatal. Tongning lowered her head and took a sip of the hot water. Her voice was gentle but cold. If she dares to make a move, this time, Tongning filmed with an injury. But even so, she still passed on her first take. Haha, no wonder she's the flying queen. She's amazing. The director gave Tongning a thumbs up. Of course, because of Tongning's professionalism, the staff no longer had to worry about her and let out a sigh of relief. Not long after, Su Xian's filming went exceptionally smoothly. In fact, she did not ask Tongning to improve her acting skills again. As a result, Su Xian's acting skills continued to improve. The director praised her because of Tongning. But Tongning simply smiled and did not say a word. Late at night after filming, Su Xian snuck into the director's room again. After a moment of intimacy, she asked, "Can you add a few more scenes for me? Even if it's just for a few seconds." The director subconsciously furrowed his brows. Just as he was about to reject her, Su Xian used her usual tricks to make it impossible for the man to reject her in bed. In the end, the director gave in. After all, he had had his fair share of women, but none of them could make a man happy like Su Xian. Meanwhile, Tongning was having sex with Mo Ting. The couple had only been apart for a few days, but they had an endless amount of things to talk about. Mo Ting was not a talkative person, but when it came to spending time with Tongning, especially after not seeing her for a few days, he didn't give her any time to interrupt. "Mr. Mo, I know you miss me, but please take good care of our baby." "But I want to take care of you more," Mo Ting said seductively. "Did anything happen on set?" "Yes, everything is fine." In order not to let Mo Ting notice the scars on her arms, she deliberately wore a comfortable jacket. "Very soon, I will return home. After that, I will stay with you and the baby forever, waiting for you to come home. But Survivor will not be the end of your acting career." Mo Ting understood the hidden meaning in her words. She had deliberately added the word forever. "Does Guogua still have a fever?" Tongning changed the subject. "Yes, but it's very mild. You should trust Lu Guangli," Mo Ting replied. "Ting, huh?" Mo Ting's voice was slightly seductive. "I want to hug you." "But I want you," Mo Ting said as he looked at Tongning passionately. "No, I need to come to the set tomorrow to rest." "Do you have to be like this?" Tongning laughed. "I'll be back very soon." This time, Mo Ting did not say a word. He simply looked at Tongning for a long time. But he didn't want to waste any more of her time. He had decided that he had to see Tongning. So, after coaxing the babies to sleep, Mo Ting gave Xia Yuling a phone call and asked the two mothers to come over and take care of the babies. "Where are you going so late at night?" Xia Yuling asked. "Did something happen to Xiaoning?" "She's fine. I just want to see her," Mo Ting said before he left the house. It took at least 5 hours to drive to the set. In other words, by the time Mo Ting arrived, it would already be daybreak. But as long as it was related to Tongning, Mo Ting didn't mind. Just as Tongning was about to fall asleep, her phone suddenly rang. Tongning looked at the time and realized it was only 4 a.m. Thinking something had happened to the babies, she quickly sat up. But she heard Mo Ting's deep voice. "Open the door." Tongning was in disbelief, but she still walked over to the door. As soon as she opened the door, she saw a tall man standing there. Before she could react, Mo Ting pushed her into the room and pressed her against the wall. "You're already a father of 2. How can you still be so impulsive?" Tongning sighed. "I only have 3 hours." Mo Ting did not want to waste any more time talking. He simply used the word do. In the past, there were indeed a lot of things that were impossible, but ever since he got together with Tongning, he no longer made careless conclusions. After an intense session, Tongning fell into a deep sleep. Mo Ting originally wanted to leave quietly, but in his sleep, Tongning held onto his hand. As soon as he moved, Tongning immediately woke up. Of course, no matter how slow he was, he could still notice the injury on Tongning's arm. But at a time like this, he did not want to disturb her rest. "Sleep a little longer. I'll walk you out." Tongning shook her head and got up. To avoid unnecessary trouble, Tongning did not plan to let the crew know that Mo Ting had been there. So, she was extra cautious as she walked Mo Ting out. But, to her surprise, just as Mo Ting left, she saw Su Xian emerge from the director's room at the end of the corridor. The two women's eyes met. Both had complex expressions on their faces, but neither of them said a word as they returned to their respective rooms. The next day, just before filming began, Su Xian took advantage of Lin Xian's absence to look for Tongning and say, "I never thought Ning Jie would do something behind President Mo's back." "So, you came out of the director's room this morning?" Tongning did not explain as she asked. "I hope Ning Jie can keep this a secret. I simply like the power of the director. Of course, as a condition, I will keep it a secret." Tongning let out a gentle laugh and did not say another word. This Su Xian seemed to think that she had found a group. Su Xian thought Tongning had agreed, so she turned and left. At this time, as Lin Xian watched Su Xian leave, she asked Tongning, "Did she come to you for advice again?" Tongning shook her head as she explained to Lin Xian what she saw that morning. "So, this Su Xian is in an affair with the director and thinks you're cheating?" Lin Xian held her forehead, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "Aha! If that's the case, things aren't looking too good. You can't underestimate this Su Xian. This means that she may use it to threaten you during filming." Chapter 801. "In that case, let's wait and see how she plans to threaten me." Tongning lowered her eyes, but it wasn't hard to sense the wisdom hidden within. Tongning obviously didn't like being threatened, but there were always people that wanted to throw their lives away. Did she think that because she had a relationship with the director, she could do whatever she wanted on set? Su Xian probably didn't know how to deal with the unspoken rules. During filming, because Su Xian thought she had something on Tongning, she winked at Tongning purposefully during the scene. She thought Tongning would respond, but Tongning simply glanced at her and remained calm. Su Xian was a little frustrated. She refused to believe that Tongning wouldn't feel guilty. So, she looked at Tongning again and gestured for her to go have a chat. But Tongning still ignored her. Su Xian was so angry that she finally gave up and sat quietly to one side. After Tongning finished filming and sat down to eat, she finally approached Tongning and said, "Ning Jie, I just invited you over. I have something to say to you." "Go ahead," Tongning replied without lifting her head. Su Xian wasn't willing to give up, so she pulled out her phone from her pocket and handed it to Tongning. "This is a photo I took this morning." Tongning lifted her eyes and saw Su Xian had taken a photo of President Mo's handsome back. "I admit that I'm not a good person, but how much better can you be? If I expose this matter, then your previous image as a good wife and mother will be destroyed." "So?" Tongning couldn't help but ask back. "I'm not asking you to be the female lead. I simply want you to help me. After all, it hasn't been easy for me to get to this point. Isn't this what you should do as a senior? Plus, I have something on you. Don't forget, you also have an affair with the director," Tongning retorted. "But you don't have any evidence. Plus, you won't expose it so easily. Otherwise, once the film ends, it will only be detrimental to you," Su Xian said confidently. "Am I right?" I never imagined that the arrogant Tongning was just a normal person who lived on a daily basis. "How do you want me to help you?" Tongning resisted the urge to laugh as she asked again. "I want you to introduce me to advertisements and give me more exposure so that I have a better chance of becoming famous," Su Xian said without holding back. "Otherwise, everyone will suffer." Su Xian thought, with Tongning's current status, she would definitely care about her reputation, especially since her husband was Mo Ting. If Tongning really did something reckless, she would be making an enemy out of Hai Rue. So, she felt the evidence in her hands was extremely valuable. But in reality, however, Tongning didn't care. "I hate being threatened, and I'm not a well-behaved person. So, if you want to expose me, go ahead. In fact, you can choose any method you want." Su Xian was shocked. "You don't care? That's impossible." "Tongning, I know you like to play mind games with others. Fine, since that's the case, I'll give you one day to think about it. Do you want to keep your secret, or do you want to lose your reputation?" After speaking, Su Xian walked away from Tongning. Not long after, Lin Xian returned. As she watched Su Xian leave, she furrowed her brows It seems she's already tried to threaten you. As you can see, Tongning nodded. What does she want? She's extremely greedy and wants everything. Tongning shook her head helplessly. I've already obtained the surveillance footage from the hotel. No matter how Su Xin tries to expose you, it will only prove that President Mo entered your room. Lin Xian put away the evidence in her hands. But how are you going to deal with Su Xin? After all, the director is involved. Just like she said, she has no evidence. As long as the director refuses to admit it, she will be slandering him. Tongning looked at Lin Xian with a deeper meaning. Of course, it's better if we can get our hands on evidence. That's a blind spot. The cameras won't be able to capture it, Lin Xian replied. This matter has become quite interesting. Tongning looked deeply at Lin Xian and noticed there was not a single trace of worry on her face. She was extremely calm. With this kind of mentality, it was indeed a waste for her to be her assistant. Are you sure you want to hide behind me for the rest of your life? Quan Zai will find you sooner or later. Hearing Quan Zai's name, Lin Xian's expression froze. But she did not say anything else. All she said was, we'll talk about it when the time comes. Meanwhile, Mo Ting had noticed the scars on Tongning's arms. So he sent someone to investigate Tongning and found out that she had fallen into a well. He also found out that she was currently investigating the culprit. So he had no choice but to buy the best scar cream and hand it to her. Tongning understood that this was Mo Ting's concern and also a warning. He was warning her not to get hurt again. President Mo sure treats you well. Lin Xian couldn't help but sigh. He's great. Keep an eye on Su Xin during the afternoon shoot. She must be feeling proud right now. She managed to control the director and threaten me at the same time. Don't worry, I'll keep an eye on that disgusting fly, Lin Xian replied in seriousness. Indeed, Su Xin wasn't satisfied with not being able to threaten Tongning that morning. So, during the afternoon shoot, she deliberately picked on Tongning. The first few times, the director noticed it, but because Su Xin was his mistress, he allowed her to do as she pleased. But, towards the end, even the staff noticed that Su Xin was deliberately stealing Tongning's screen time. In fact, there were a few times where they even made physical contact. Su Xin, what are you doing? The director couldn't help but yell. Su Xin looked at the director and rubbed her eyes. Director, I'm sorry. I'm not feeling well. You can't keep making Tongning repeat herself. Even if you're not tired, she'll still be tired, the director said angrily. One more take. If you don't pass, Su Xin doesn't need to continue filming today. But even after a few more takes, Su Xin still found all sorts of excuses and the director accepted them all. Tongning was a little tired, but Su Xin looked proud. She wanted to tell Tongning that the director only listened to her and was extremely tolerant of her. She even approached Tongning and whispered into her ear, "Why don't I help you get together with the director? I don't mind having two women serving one man." Tongning glanced at Su Xin, but did not respond. Instead, she said to the director, "Director, why don't I try out Su Xin's role and give her a demonstration?" The director looked at the two women and nodded. "Here, Tongning, give Su Xin a demonstration that you're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.